Welcome to all participants.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay. We are waiting for others to come. Please, if you want to sing a song, Pak Yusinus.
Oh,
No.
Rina, Ristia, good morning.
Morning.
Kak Karina.
Halo Pak, morning Pak.
Kamu dari tahun lalu begitu terus.
Iya nih.
Good morning, Ibu Norma.
Good morning.
Always normal, yes.
Amin.
Pak Yus, nyanyi dong Pak Yus.
Ah, Pak Benny. Burung kakak tua. Saya tahu itu, Pak. Tua dan seterusnya.
Itu belum ada bahasa Inggrisnya, Pak Yus.
Oh, belum ada, Pak. Mr. Vishnu, one of our speaker today.
Yes, he is one of the speakers.
Uh,
I think it has been a long time.
where is he now?
He's still in Ohio,
Oh, Ohio.
US. Yes,
So he will speak from Ohio, yes?
I think because I think it's 8 p.m. in US now.
Oh,
Yeah, he was supposed to be the first speaker, but then he contact us. He might be late, so we kind of changed the order.
oh.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Ibu Joyce, good morning.
Morning, Bu Joyce.
Morning, Pak.
Good morning.
Selamat pagi, Bapak Ibu semua.
Good morning,
Pagi,
Bu Joyce.
Ya, pagi.
Ibu
Kita
Joyce makin awet aja selama WFH ini.
Waduh, Pak, saya sudah masuk kerja ya, Pak. Ke WFH
Oh, itu
lagi.
ya.
Barengan setim sama Pak Fios, tapi Pak Fios, Pak Yus.
Oh,
tapi
gitu ya.
jarang ketemu ya, kita tim B loh, Pak.
Ya,
Moga-moga bisa ketemu ya, Pak, minggu besok.
ya. Saya usahakan.
Are you coming to the Kijang, Pak Yus, next week
Yes,
on Monday?
on Monday, yes.
Wow.
Ya, oke lah.
Because of Ibu Joyce, Pak.
Wah. Waduh, kehormatan buat saya nih. Ya, baik.
You have to bring something special then, Lu. So we are waiting for.
Yeah, we are waiting for. Yeah. What about all the presenters are here, Bu Norma?
Mr. Kiki is here, Bu Joyce.
Oh, okay, but we still
Okay.
wait for yeah, 2 presenters. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Still have 6 minutes. Yeah, before
Okay.
we start. Okay.
Yes, good morning, Pak Kiki.
Good
Hello,
morning.
good morning. Sorry.
Pak
with
Kiki,
you.
Mr. Kiki, how are you, Pak?
I'm great.
Wah. Probably, Ibu Norma, probably we can share the virtual background to all participants.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you already?
Okay, I'll try to send it again.
Yes, Bapak Ibu, if your computers are available for the virtual background, you may use the virtual background. We share it in the forum. the
Okay.
chat forum.
Bu
Yeah.
Joyce.
Yeah, I sent again. So
Rina, can you share us the YouTube links? We have
Yeah.
live YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Yus, what's your plan on this Saturday? Playing badminton?
Badminton ya. Sabar, sabar, sabar.
Probably we can try to contact some new participants. Yeah, I think we already have some of them. Pak Kristan, hello Pak Kristan. Halo Pak Kristan. We also have Ibu Linda Unsriana. Hi Ibu.
Yeah, hello,
Halo Ibu.
Joyce. How are you?
Ibu, how are you? I'm fine. What about you Ibu?
Thank you. I'm fine, thank you.
Oke, Ibu dari mana Bu? Kalau boleh tahu dari fakultas.
Sastra Jepang, Bu.
Oh, oke. Ya, kita baru ketemu ini ya, Bu ya.
Yeah.
Oke. Kemudian we also have Pak Raffi ya. Pak Raffi Chandra. Halo, Pak. Halo, Pak Raffi.
Halo, morning Bu. I'm Raffi
Morning,
from
Pak.
Binus Entrepreneurship Center, Bu.
Oke. Glad to see you, Bapak ya.
Ya, itu Bu.
Oke, we also have Ibu Dwi Nanda. Ini Ibu atau Bapak ya? Ibu ya ini ya, Dwi Nanda. Halo. Halo Pak atau Ibu ini? Dwi Nanda Kinanti atau?
Depend on week.
Iya, yang pasti biasanya kalau namanya dengan Dwi ini pasti anak kedua ini ya.
Kedua, yes.
Ah.
Anak kedua, betul. Anak yang direncanakan. Ya.
Oke, kita boleh mungkin kita sapa ini ya, ada Pak Kristan, halo. Selamat pagi Pak Kristan.
morning Pak Kristan.
Mungkin bapaknya masih off.
Lagi mandi ke kali Bu, biasa ke kali Pak Kristan.
Oke, Ibu Novianti, halo. Selamat pagi Ibu Novi. Ibu Novi. Oh, ini juga belum ya. Halo Ibu Asi. Ibu
Selamat
Asi.
pagi Ibu Joyce, Pak Kris.
Selamat pagi
ini good
Bu
morning.
Asi.
Bu Asi.
Selamat
Boleh
pagi
dibuka
mendung dari
kameranya
Malang.
Kak? Biar kita melihat bagaimana udara Malang.
Bentar, Bu. Saya pakai HP soalnya.
Oh, oke. Maaf Bu Asi. Oke. Halo Bu Usda. Bu Usda ini dari Malang juga sepertinya.
Halo Bu, saya dari Malang.
Ya, Bu Usda dari mana Bu? Dari fakultas apa?
Dari DKV.
Oh, dari DKV. Wah, senang ya Bu. Wah,
Iya.
oke. Berarti ini ya anak buahnya Pak Danendro bukan ya?
Bukan
ya?
Pak Victor, Bu.
Oh, Pak Victor. Oke. Ya. Baik, selamat bergabung di sini ya, Bu.
Iya, Bu. Terima kasih, Joyce.
Ya. Terus ini ada Ibu Sarah Ayu. Halo, Ibu. Bu Sarah.
Artis ini Bu ya?
Bu Sarah Ayu.
Itu mahasiswa saya Bu Joyce.
Dulu
Di Bandung.
Oke.
Iya, dari Universitas Pasundan Bandung tuh Bu Joyce.
Unpas ya?
Iya.
Oke,
Ada dua.
oke.
Ya.
Salam kenal Ibu Sarah, Mbak Sarah kalau begitu ya panggilnya ya. Mbak Sarah. Halo Kakak Desi. Halo Kakak Desi. Kalau
Halo,
Bu Sarah
Ibu.
adik, kalau Bu Sarah adik, jadi ini kakaknya berarti. Selamat pagi Bu Desi.
Selamat pagi, Ibu.
Ya, Bapak Ibu Bu Desi nanti akan menjadi moderator. Jadi nanti Bu Desi yang akan membawa kita ya ke dalam main agenda pada acara hari ini. Baik.
Yeah, by the way, Bu Joyce, Dr. Dovcin is here. So good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Dovcin. Mungkin masih.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Nice
Good
to see you
morning.
all here.
Nice to see you here. Can you open your camera, Miss?
Yeah, okay. I wasn't prepared.
It's
I'll
okay.
put my background on now.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Okay. It hasn't started yet, has it?
Not yet.
We're still waiting.
Yeah.
For some participants.
We still wait for some participants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Karena kita masih menunggu, boleh ngobrol sama Bu.
Bu Irma, iya silakan Bu. Boleh Bu.
Morning, Dr. Dovcin.
Yes. Good morning.
The very reason why I'm here.
Oh, thank you.
I have read some of your works, most of them related to translanguaging.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm doing the.
Talking about translanguaging today, though.
That's the reason why. Yeah, I know. I was quite wondering myself why that's not the topic. That would be much better. Yeah.
Because the symposium is not about translanguaging, it's about the COVID and yeah.
So would you mind if I ask a little bit about translanguaging?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I have read your work, some of them. Mostly you're focusing on Mongolian students, but on Facebook.
Yes, mostly on Mongolian students, but lately I'm also concentrating on immigrants in Australia as well. Yeah.
I haven't read that one.
Yes, if you look at my latest works, they are mostly immigrants in Australia. But you know, when I say immigrants in Australia, it would also be like Mongolian immigrants in Australia.
I see.
Yes, yeah. But not only Mongolians, there will be like, you know, Chinese background or you know, like Ukrainian background, Eastern European background, and so forth. So, yeah. But when I first started, it was I did it in the Mongolian context. Yes.
What I like to ask you is about the identity that you mentioned in your work. I was kind of wondering why it's only stated that okay, they show some kind of identity, and then that's that.
Yes. So. Obviously, when you talk about translanguaging, people talk about how they are, right? So, when they speak how they are, identity is a big part of how they speak. So, translanguaging and identity, they always go together.
So the identity you were talking about referring to what theory? I mean, whether you were referring to the identity that Chanaragaja had mentioned in his earlier work between native and nativeness, or something new like the one that Richards and Wilson's talk about, trans identity.
Yes, that's the identity we talk about in applied linguistics, and
So between native and non-native, that's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you see my background? Because my background is looking a bit.
Yeah, we can see it. It's
Yeah.
clear.
Is it
so-
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay,
good.
so we can start now, right, Miss Joyce?
Yes, we can start it.
All right.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Norma Pawestri, and on behalf of Language Center, Bina Nusantara University, I would like to extend our very warm welcome to our symposium on navigating changes on learning attitude during pandemic transitions period. We thank you all for taking the time of your schedule today, and hopefully you will find our agenda that we have lined up today to be engaging and fruitful. As your MC today, let me first introduce you to our agenda. First, we will set the ball rolling by having an opening remark from our manager, Mr. Cristianos Octriono, and then we will continue with an opening prayer. And after that, we will reach our core event, where our speakers today, which we are very lucky to have, will be delivering their materials. Okay, we have Mr. Kiki Julie from Thailand, Malala University, and then we have Dr. Sanders Dovchin from Curtis University, and we also have Mr. Wisnu Broto, who will join us later on from Ohio, America. And after that, we will have Q&A sessions. You can participate that, which will be moderated by our moderator today, Ms. Desi Indrawati. And once we are finished with our core event, we will have a little bit of token appreciations and photo session. And we will continue with a closing remark from our leader today, Ms. Joyce Yulinda Luke. And then we expect to finish our agenda maximum by 12 p.m. in the afternoon today. And for your information, I put the virtual backdrop there in the chat box. You can check it. And also, we recorded these sessions, and you can also access it through our YouTube channel, Language Center BINUS, and our website, okay, lc.binus.ac.id. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I will now invite Mr. Cristianos Octriono as the manager of Language Center Bina Nusantara University to have an opening remark. So, Mr. Chris, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and welcome to this symposium. It's a moment of pleasure to welcome all of you to attend this symposium. I offer my regards to all the people joining us, and I convey my regards to our speakers of the day. We have Dr. Sanders Dovchin from Curtin University, Australia, Mr. Wisnu Broto in Ohio, US, and also Mr. Julie Angguru from Malala University, Thailand. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation for this symposium. We are truly delighted with your presence. Our events today will focus on navigating changes on learning attitudes during pandemic transition period. And the scale of the symposium will highlight several topics, and it includes more issues to address the full aspects of the topic. And we hope that this event will be a source of knowledge for all of us related to the issues, and also a medium to enhance English proficiency and international experience through knowledge sharing. And thank you to everyone who made this event possible, to our committee in Language Center, Jakarta, Bandung, Malang, our speakers, and all participants. I wish this event enlightens us all and provides us with approach to deal with the future challenges. Enjoy the moment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chris. Yeah, so moving on, I would like to invite you all to join me for an opening prayer. So ladies and gentlemen, today we give our heart and our mind to pray, okay, so that God will deepen our knowledge, okay, will strengthen our understanding and broaden our comprehensions of whatever we are going to learn in the symposium today. So according to our individual beliefs, pray, please do. Right, finish. Thank you. So now we are reaching to our main agenda or our core event, which is the delivery from our speakers. And therefore, I would like to give it to our moderator today, Ms. Desi Indrawati. Yeah, okay, Ms. Desi, you can take
Thank
over.
you, Ms. Norma. Yeah, thank you so much for this. Okay, so I would like to welcome everyone, distinguished Language Center Manager, participants, ladies and gentlemen, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted from Language Center to welcome you all, the participants, especially the speakers, to this symposium on navigating changes in learning attitudes during pandemic transition period. I am Desi Indrawati as the moderator for today's symposium. First of all, there are some points that I would like to highlight here. I'm sure that most of you already saw the flyer that Ibu Joyce shared with all of us, and also the invitation from the email that it's totally concerned about this global pandemic issue. But well, we can see here, not only in Indonesia, I'm sure in Thailand, in Mr. Kiki's place, and then Dr. Sander, also Dochin, also plays in Australia, and then and in Ohio, Mr. Wisnu's place in the United States of America. I think everywhere now we face this global pandemic and still going on until now, and most of us have to struggle with this condition, and we have to prepare for our syllabi with the academic calendar. And while some universities now reopen, and of course our university, Binus, now we have the hybrid classes, some of them. But having that experience, we have kind of like anxiety, grief, like sad, and so on, isolation, and so on. So from this, we can see that our feel like kind of inconvenience for this such of situation, especially for us, the educators, students, and the universities. So we have the concern here, the question, what sum of completion or kind of like suggestion for these matters we can get the answers from our outstanding speakers today. The first speakers, we have 3 speakers. Now, the first one is Mr. Kiki Julie Anggoro, SPDM from Walailak University, Thailand. And then the second speaker is Dr. Sander Dalchin from Curtin University, Australia. And then the third one is Mr. Wisnu Broto, SPDM from Ohio University. So every speaker will have 55 minutes. We'll have 55 minutes, 45 minutes for presenting the topics, and after that 10 minutes for question and answer session, and the last part is a statement remark from each of the speaker. So we cannot wait for the speaker to they will deliver their presentation. So the first one is Mr. Kiki Julie Anggoro, SPD the time is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Please give
You're
me
welcome.
Bandung dari mana, Mas? Uji Bandung. Di mobil enggak? Loh. Terakhir di mana? Kok di tempat saya nggak ada ya?
Pak Jendri, mungkin bisa di mute, Pak. Terima kasih, Bapak. Silakan, Pak Kiki.
All right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It is such an honor for me to get invited to this event. My name is Kiki Julie Anggoro, and I am from Walailak University, Thailand. However, I am an Indonesian actually, so I am an expat here living and working in Thailand. So,
Mr. Kiki, I'm really sorry. I missed the part of your curriculum vitae, your biography. Can I read your CV first?
oh, sure, please.
I'm sorry for that. Yeah, I missed that part. I'm sorry. Yeah, let me read your CV first. Thank you.
Bu Desi, ke mute.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Kiki Juli Anggoro was born in Betung, Sumatra, Indonesia. And then he got his bachelor's degree program in English language education in Yogyakarta State University. And then he also received his master's program in educational technology and communication, Nerausuan University. And then he has some working experiences as the tutor for Indonesian language to foreigners at Yogyakarta State University, and then as the consultant of Narasi International Education Consultant as the team leader for Yogyakarta branch office. And then he also he was the teaching assistant at Narusuan University, Thailand. And then now he is the lecturer at Walailak University in Thailand. And then also he has some of the publications, kind of like articles and books. We can, we can see some of his publication journal in Scopus Index. It's about mixed method case study in secondary educational service area, and then the integration of co-teaching and blended learning to improve students' English skills in Thailand, and also the English presentation in science and technology. So no wonder he has a lot of publications, journals, especially in Scopus Index. Wow. Give applause for Mr. Kiki Juli Anggoro. Okay, Mr. Kiki, now you can continue your presentation. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much for the kind introduction, Ibu Desi. Thank you very much. All right, so as mentioned earlier, so I got bachelor degree in English language teaching, but my master degree is in educational technology and communication. Okay, and in today's presentation, I'll be sharing my experiences on teaching English amid the pandemic. And this is a happy and sad story from Thailand. Okay, but before sharing my experiences, I would like to show you the context where I'm teaching right now. So I am a lecturer at the School of Languages and General Education, Walailak University, Thailand. And I'm teaching the general English courses. So I'm teaching English communication skills, academic listening and speaking, academic reading and writing, English presentation skills, and others, all the general English courses. And I've been teaching here since 2017. All right, so now let's move on. In today's presentations, I have 3 main points. I will start with the problems that we are having, and then I will show you what adjustments we have done so far and the current situation and what we will do moving forward. So I hope everyone is ready because we are now moving on to the first point. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling with the first point, which is the problems that we are currently having. So the problems here are divided into 2 categories. The first one is the instructors, and the second one is the students. So the first one, the instructors. So basically, I have made a summary of what problems we are encountering amid the pandemic. I also asked some of my colleagues, the international lecturers here, so to give you more comprehensive data on what problems we are facing at the moment. So the first one is technological skills. I think this is a very common problem. Reading the recent studies on Google Scholar at the time of the pandemic, there are so many studies which report lack of the lecturers or the instructors' technological skills, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, which was here in Thailand. It was in March 2020 when we were asked to move our on-site classes to online classes, right? So one major problem is related to the conferencing tool. So before here, we didn't use Zoom actually. So before, our university used WebEx and then Microsoft Teams. But because it was harder actually for the students to join sessions in Microsoft Teams, the university decided to buy the license of Zoom. And right now it's been much easier. However, it did take time for the lecturers to get adjusted to the familiarity with online teaching. So yeah, we've been teaching for like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. How is a novel thing to us, is something new. So even though we are well known in how to deliver as successful online as in classroom, is not an easy task. It's not a piece of cake. Therefore, that created a lot of challenges for the lecturers. And also, we didn't have much time for trainings. We were told about doing the online teaching a week before it started. So we didn't have a lot of trainings. So even though it did not impact much on some people, but it did create a lot of problems to others, especially those who were not very who were not used to using technology tools in their classes. All right, and also because we are teaching general English courses, and in our classes we have to teach about the productive skills and the receptive skills. Even it's kind of okay to teach the receptive skills like listening and reading. It's harder to teach the speaking and writing skills. The reason is because these two skills focus on practice. So it's really challenging for the lecturers, for the instructors to get the students to practice speaking and practice writing simultaneously or in real time during the online classes. It was a challenge. And also because we are foreigners here, and when we are teaching the students, the Thai students, and if they don't understand us, that will be a bigger challenge. In classrooms, we can, approach them individually, and we can, show our gestures. But in online class, it's so difficult, especially if the students are not willing to turn on their cameras. So yeah, it's so difficult to communicate with students with low English proficiency levels. Giving feedback is also difficult. Sometimes when we call students' names, they don't respond, and also it's very time consuming. So maybe in classroom, we can approach the students and tell them directly their immediate feedback. But in online classes, some of us prefer to do it after the class. So for example, if the students submitted their writings, and then we check the writings after the class, and it took a long time. And also, because of the situations that we are currently facing here in Thailand, there are so many changes. So the changes here are constant. It's like every term, new rules, new policies, even right now. And I think that everyone would agree that online teaching is actually more tiring than on-site teaching, because we pour more energy. We have to talk more. We have to try to get the students engaged in online classes when maybe some of them are actually not focusing on the class. So that was the problems that myself and some of my colleagues are facing. What about the students' problems? So this is from our perspective, okay? Students' problems from the instructor's perspective. The first one is their internet problem. And the second one is their gadget, audio, and camera problems, and familiarity with new tools such as the Zoom, LMS, and other things. an unconducive learning environment, because sometimes even though the students are trying to focus on the lessons, but maybe their family members are being loud in the background, and that create unconducive learning environment for the students. And we also did some research actually, and we saw that students' achievement declined. We observed it from their formative assessment and also the pre-test and post-test comparison. And lastly, of course, I think this is a major problem that we are currently facing, not only here in Thailand, but also all around the world. In EFL, ESL classes, students' participation, interaction, and engagement are very low now during the online instruction, especially if the classes are big. If the classes are small, less than 10 people, I think it's much easier to get the students engaged, to talk to the students one by one. However, that's not always the case. Most of the time here, we teach students like 30 or 50 students in one class, and we cannot talk to all the students in that 2-hour session. Therefore, it is such a challenge. Now that we've known the problems, we also try to develop some solutions to solve these problems, and we made adjustments. But before I show you our adjustments here, I want to show you our timeline here in Thailand. So online class, it started in March 2020 here in Thailand, and it was actually the middle of the term. So I think it was like week 3 or week 4, and then week 5, we had to start online classes. So these sudden changes, of course, created chaos at the time. And then in June 2020, so for the first half of the term, we still did it online. But then the situation in Thailand got better, right? I think Thailand was one of the countries who were successful with handling COVID-19. Therefore, we moved the online classes to on-site again, but with strict health protocols. And then in October 2020, we started with on-site, and then because of some new cases, the university decided to go online again in February. So from February to now, we've been doing everything online. The reason is because right now, I think Thailand is facing its worst phase in the COVID-19 situation. Even though I live in a small town, I think COVID-19 is like all around me right now. Okay, so these are the timelines and now the adjustments that we made. So I also asked some of my colleagues like what they are doing in order to make this summary for all of you. So the first one is gamification. In order to address students, low students participation, interaction, and engagement levels, a lot of my colleagues, they believe in using gamification in their classes. So this is just one example, okay? So an example is trivia. So the lecturer gives clues and then the students guess the vocabs like in the clues, from the clues. And also some lecturers, they prefer to use more pictures or visual aids, especially when teaching the low English proficiency students. So instead of just showing the vocabs, they show the pictures. And then the lecturers also enjoy doing more group work or pair work during classes. For what I do, because I have master degree in educational technology. So I am comfortable using and integrating technology in my English classes. Therefore, what I'm doing is I'm using online interactive response systems, and I also adapted the flipped classroom model, which I will explain later. Okay, so now I would like to explain more about the online interactive response systems. I know that the name is a bit fancy, but I think all of you here are familiar with some of the names that I put here on the slide. Kahoot is very popular. I believe that everyone here has used Kahoot before. Quizzes too, I think you have used quizzes before. Socrative, you have used Socrative before, Quizlet, Pear Deck, Nearpod, and others. So let's start with Kahoot, quizzes, and Quizlet. So what are they? I think you know the answers, right? So Kahoot, quizzes, Quizlet, they are interactive quizzes. So what we use them for in our classes is to review and practice the skills. So here I put vocabulary, grammar, or theories or concepts. So in our online classes, we use these interactive tools in order to get students' engagements. Even though they don't turn on their cameras, but they still are obliged to join these sessions. Therefore, we don't really worry anymore about them wanting to turn on their cameras or not. That's up to them, but they have to join the quizzes, the slides, the activities that we are doing during the class. The next one is Socrative. So we do formative assessment every week. And at the beginning of every class, students is given a vocab quiz. The vocab quiz is run by Socrative. So we created quizzes on Socrative, and then we ask students to join the Socrative sessions, and then they answer the questions. So from the results of students' answers, we would know whether or not they have comprehended the vocabularies that they learned in the previous units or not. So that's what we do. And we prefer using Socrative for tests, the formative and summative tests also for online instruction, is because Socrative is more formal compared to Kahoot and quizzes, which have more animations. Socrative is more formal, so it has less animations, and also it is more straightforward than the other tools. That's why we prefer using Socrative for the assessment. All right. Next is Nearpod. So Nearpod, I also just learned this actually. Like I just knew Nearpod, I think 6 months ago from my colleague in UK. So she told me, Kiki, have you tried this new tool called Nearpod? And I was like, oh, what is that? Is it another Kahoot? And she was like, oh, you should check it out. It's very interesting. And then I did. I went to their website, and actually, just like the others, it has both the free and the premium version, but of course I'm using only the free version. And in the free version, you can actually access their interactive videos and interactive slides. So we use the interactive videos for student supplemental activities. So after the class, we would give them links to the interactive videos that we made. And we ask the students to watch the videos and then answer the prompts in the videos. If you don't want to create the videos, you can choose to create slides. Even though I said that we use it as a supplemental activity outside the class, you can actually use it also in class. So during the class, you can use Nearpod as well. You can check out Nearpod. I actually strongly recommend you to check out Nearpod. If you need some tutorials on it, there are many videos on YouTube that you can check out. Even though Nearpod is very useful, Pear Deck is what I have been using since the start of the pandemic. So since March 2020, I have been using Pear Deck in my online classes. And also I've been doing research on it and I publish papers on it. So that's why in today's presentation, I want to focus more on Pear Deck. Some of you might have known Pear Deck before, but also maybe not, because even though it is very useful, not a lot of people know Pear Deck. Even here, my colleagues also didn't know Pear Deck until I introduced it to them. So what is Pear Deck? Pear Deck consists of interactive slides, and you can use it before the class as homework or a post-class activity and in class. So you can use it asynchronously and synchronously. There are many choices of slide types on Pear Deck that you can choose from. But what I'm using usually are the drawing slides, the text slides, the multiple choice slides, and the drag the icon slide. I think I have some examples here. So I think last week it was like Ratong Festival here in Thailand because the students couldn't do it in person due to the pandemic. So I asked them to do it in class as a warm-up activity. So I asked them to draw their like Ratong for this year. This is the drag the icon slide. So yeah, and you can choose the icon that you want, that you prefer. So here I chose fish. Okay, this is the text slide. So for example, I was explaining about the modal verbs of deduction and speculation. And then I asked the students to practice by creating two sentences, one using must or can, and another using might not or may not. And these are students' work, and then I could give them feedback in real time as well, because I could see their responses in real time. All right, I think I will show you a bit more about Pear Deck and the research that we did with Pear Deck. Okay, so as I told you before, it was hard for us to teach productive skills, right? Such as writing or speaking due to the online teaching situations. We cannot interact with the students easily during the online classes. So in my class before, I think it was in March, we saw that students' writing achievement was declining, and that was concerning. Therefore, we were trying to find ways how to increase, how to improve their writing achievement. And then we were trying to find ways, and then we decided to go with Pear Deck. So I think I will just move on to here. So from our research, we found that students' writing skills, especially in the group which were taught with Pear Deck, improved significantly compared to those in the control group. Also, students' satisfaction was high. We can see right here that students' satisfaction was 4.56 out of 5. That shows they were happy in the online classes using Pear Deck. All right, now I will go back to my main presentation. Okay, so that was about Pear Deck. If you are interested to know more about it, you can ask me later in the Q&A session. Okay, now let's move on to the other one that I listed earlier, which is flipped classroom for online instruction. What I'm noticing from the recent studies, recently published manuscripts, that we all can access actually on Google Scholar. Flipped classroom has been a trend, I think. it's not only in my university, but all around the world. And I believe that this is what I knew from my friend there in B News. They also, you are also doing flipped classroom, right? Like some of you are doing flipped classroom. So here in my university, we call it flipped classroom for online instruction, or FCOI. So after using Pear Deck for some time, we decided to integrate Pear Deck into flipped classroom. The reason why, because even though Pear Deck was very successful during the class, but it did take time because we still had to deliver the lesson, and then we should give the practice to the students via Pear Deck. So we were thinking, what if the students had to learn the materials before the class, and then during the class, we could just focus on practice and review. And then we decided to go with flipped classroom for online instruction. I believe that all of you here are familiar with flipped classroom. So this model was introduced by Bergman and Sams, right? A long time ago. It's more than 10 years ago. And it usually consists of two phases, the pre-class and in-class. The pre-class is usually online, and the in-class is usually on-site in the classrooms. However, due to the pandemic, we are unable to use the traditional flipped classroom model because we cannot meet students in classrooms. Therefore, this is the solution that we did. We adapted the model for a fully virtual use. So in the model, we still have two phases. We have the pre-online class and the in-online class. For the pre-online class, it is asynchronous, of course, and in online class is in real time or synchronous. So what we did with the asynchronous phase is we created a lecture video. I think you guys did too. And then we uploaded the video to YouTube. We asked the students to watch the video, which is pretty common for a flipped classroom model. However, what made it different from the others is the mini online quiz that we did. So after watching the videos, we asked the students to do several mini quizzes on the video, so about the video. So we also decided, instead of using like formal platforms, we decided to use interactive online response systems like Kahoot and quizzes. The reason is, one of the biggest problems in a flipped classroom is students' procrastination. They are lazy, right? Sometimes, even though the lecturer is also lazy, but the students are lazier. Okay, so here we decided to use Kahoot or quizzes because these platforms have been proven to improve students' motivation. They have been proven to improve students' engagement. Therefore, we believe that using this platform would actually encourage those students to watch the video and then to do the quiz. And after they watch the video and then they did the quiz, we believe that coming to class, they were prepared for the activities that we would do in online class, which was synchronous. So in the online class, we really focused on only two things. The first one is the review, short review, and then practice. I would say practice was about 80%. So it was actually very beneficial for us to do this model, especially when we were teaching writing or speaking skills. Writing or speaking skills, it was very beneficial for us. However, this model wasn't perfect. There were flaws. That's why we couldn't introduce this to all our colleagues in the university yet. And we still had to make adjustments because not everyone in the university had the same level of technology literacy, right? So there were some instructors who were not very comfortable using interactive response system, using Pear Deck, and they had to learn at a very rapid pace, and they were uncomfortable with it. So we decided to find ways to cope with the situation. And then we made more adaptations. And then we actually just change some parts in the model and the IRS or interactive response systems used in the model. So we divided the model into three. So we made three sub-models. The first one is the basic model. So this one still has two phases, the pre-online class and then the in-online class. So here, the same as the traditional flipped classroom model. So in the pre-online class, the students will be doing their independent study, but we, of course, have to prepare the materials, the textbook, the module, the video. And then in online class, we review the materials and then we simply give them a lot of practice and feedback. The weakness of this model is that we believe, we have to trust that the students do the independent study because there is no connecting activity here. So we have to trust that the students will do the independent study. If not, the in-online class won't have a lot of sessions for practice and feedback. Instead, it will be full of the review sessions, which will not be very beneficial. And that was the basic model. This is the enhanced model, which has been working pretty well with a lot of my colleagues here also. So this enhanced model has one difference from the basic model, which is the connecting activity. The connecting activity actually is the one that is making major changes. Because after the students do their independent study with the materials that we prepared and ask them to do some activity, give them the quiz, the interactive quizzes with interactive response systems like Kahoot or Quizzes or Quizlet, Socrative, or you can ask the students to do a mini project before class. Maybe like they make videos or they make some pieces of writing. So that will ensure you that before class, the students have done something to prepare themselves. And during the real time, the synchronous class, you can focus more on the practice and feedback. If you are very comfortable with using technology tools, you can use this model. So this advanced model also has been used by some of my colleagues, but it's not for everyone. The reason is because you need to learn more technology tools here because in the pre-online class, you have interactive video already, and then the interactive slides. So the interactive video, you can use play, pause it, you can use add puzzle, you can use video, and the interactive slides here, you can use Pear Deck or quizzes. So what are they for? So in the previous model, we have the prepared activities, right? The videos or the modules or the textbook, we put them inside an interactive video or inside the interactive slides. Okay. And this is also the connect after these activities, you need to do the connecting activity as well, which is the interactive quiz. So after students learn from the interactive videos or interactive slides, they have to do interactive quizzes for the class or the mini project. And therefore, in online class, you know that the students, after they fought so hard before coming to class, they finished all these activities before coming to class. Now they are ready for the activities. And also here, actually, we put more group practice and then individual practice. Yeah, thanks to the breakout rooms in Zoom, we are able to do many group and pair work for students, yes. Okay, now I think I have come to the last topic in my presentation, which is the current situation. So at the moment, we are still teaching online. We are still doing our assessments online. So everything is online now. However, is there hope for on-site teaching? There is. So I think the new regulation just came out like last week or last 2 weeks that next term we would be teaching on-site or in classrooms with strict health protocols. However, I'm not really sure about it because changes are very constant here. Sometimes it's every week. So new week, new rules sometimes. So we do expect changes. So maybe next time, even though the plan is already on site, but yeah, if it's online, we are also ready for it. So what we have learned from the situation, what we have learned from these problems we are going through amid the pandemic is that one, as lecturers now, even though we can teach in classrooms, we also have gained skills to teach online. Also, we gain more technology skills, we gain research skills, we gain collaboration because we talk with our colleagues, we share experiences with our colleagues on how to improve the instructions, how to improve the courses together, and what problems are students facing, and how we can address the problems together. And I think for me especially, I am learning patience and understanding. Sometimes when we call students in online classes and they don't respond, at first I got irritated. Norma, I called 3 times. Still not responding, and I'm just like, then I think right now, if I call Norma, okay, maybe Norma is having internet problem. So I think I have learned more patience. I am now a more patient lecturer, and also I'm more understanding. Some students, they always make excuses not to attend the class. Oh, I'm sorry, Achan. Achan is a professor here in Thailand. I'm sorry, Achan. It's raining cats and dogs at the moment. Or I'm sorry, Achan, but my home is flooded. But every week, it happens every week. I'm like, oh, okay. If you don't try, then I don't try either. That's just what I do. And then we also learn to have more resilience as teachers and lecturers. And overall, it has made me a better instructor. Do I have time? Do I have some time left?
Yes, sorry, you still have time, Mr. Kiki. Don't worry.
Okay,
You still have time for about 8 minutes.
Okay.
8 minutes
Thank
left.
you. So I think,
yeah.
Okay, all right. So
Is it
maybe
done?
if you guys, not yet. So if I still have time, this is actually a plan that I had. So if you want to participate in this activity, you can click the link in the chat box. So you can check the link on the chat, and you can click that link, and then you can log into your Gmail. Actually, this is a simulation of what I'm doing now with my class. I'm using Pear Deck now. So if you are available, you are convenient to do it, and please join me. Right, so usually while waiting for my students to join my class, I give them this drawing slide. And you can draw too. You can draw on your screen. You can draw your favorite food, yes. Yeah, so you can click the link on the chat, everyone, please. Right, so instead of just waiting, the students usually are given this type of activity. Well, it's different week by week, but yeah, this is just one of it, drawing. Okay, what is that? Durian? Oh my God. Fish. But you eat this fish? I thought it's like an aquarium fish. Okay. Right. Everyone, if you want to join, come on. Join us. All right. So these are all your combined drawings. Bread. Okay. All right. That's nice. Okay. Oh yeah, what I'm using is the free version of Pear Deck. So all the tools that I mentioned to you, they have both the free and the paid versions. What I'm using here, however, is the free version. Chicken. Oh, I do love chicken, but I miss nasi padang so much. All right. Okay, is that satay? Oh, wow. I miss satay. Okay, so this is like an example, okay, of the slides that you can use on Pear Deck. This is the drawing slide. Now I'm gonna move on to the next example of the slide. Okay, here I'm gonna give you prompt to please write your name. So you can type your name, please. What's your name? Please tell me your name. Okay, so this is the text slide, everyone, and it's real time, okay? So you can see students' responses in real time there. Hi, Benny. Hi, Rafki. For example. Oh, Benny too. Hello, Norma. Right, so these are the text slides that we are using. So actually this text slide is very versatile. You can use it in many ways. Yes, you can use it to take students' attendance like this, but you can also use it to practice writing or to review materials. For example, upon attending the class, you can ask the students, what have you learned from the materials given to you before class? And then they can tell you here. The good thing about this is that you don't need to spend much time, to ask the students one by one. Oh, Norma, what do you think about this? Oh, what do you think about this? You can just ask, you can just create this, and then all the students at the same time, they can respond. Okay, the next one, okay, next example. Okay, I think this one, however, you can do also on the Zoom, yes. So for example, maybe you can ask them, oh, tell me where Indonesia is. And then can you make a line from Indonesia to Canada? Things like that. So they can simply draw on the slides here. But you can use many things, okay? I just put this as an example, the world map. Yeah, right. And or where would you love to travel after the restrictions are gone? Okay. Yeah, me too. I would love to visit Japan again. Okay, next slide, okay? Okay, this one is circling. Okay, so you can circle the tools you use for your online class. Are you guys using Zoom or you are using Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Facebook? What are you using? Okay, Zoom, right? There are 3 ways you can look at the students' responses. This one is one by one, this is in group, and this is like all together. They're combined responses. So you can see that a lot of people are using Zoom, yes. There is a person who is using Facebook. Me too, actually, I'm using Facebook. Oh, 2 people now. And then one person is using Microsoft Teams. Yeah, Microsoft Teams is also reliable. All right, next one, okay? Play with me. Okay, now, can you match column A with column B? Sorry. Okay, match column A with column B, please. Okay, so that's Zoom, that's WebEx, that's Microsoft Teams. Okay. Do I still have more here? Let me see. There are so many things, Okay, here are the types of slides on Pear Deck. The text slide, multiple choice slide, number slide, website, drawing, draggable, and there are more actually. I will share all these slides to you later. So I think everyone, you can leave Pear Deck if you want. Okay, I'm gonna share the QR code if you want to access today's PowerPoint slides here. So if you want to access today's PowerPoint slides, you can scan this QR code right here. It will lead you to a folder consisting of 3 files. Okay. So I think that's my session, yes. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. So in today's presentation, I've talked to you about the problems that we are facing here while teaching English at a Thai university, and then the adjustments that we have done and the current situation and what we are expecting to happen in the near future. So I think that's my session. You can scan this QR code if you want to access today's PowerPoint slides. Thank you very much. Now, Ibu Desi, please take over. Thank you.
Okay, please everyone give the reaction for Mr. Kiki. Wow, very, very outstanding presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Kiki. What I learned from your presentation before the participants ask questions to you, it happens to me actually in my class as well. Like you mentioned about it's hard for the students to open the camera. We have been struggling for that. Not only me, some of my friends as well, English teachers, English lecturers here in Indonesia. I don't know how to. We need the teaching technique to push them to boost up their motivation. In our class, especially in Zoom meeting class, Mr. Kiki. That's the first. I remember you mentioned that. And the second one is that with this pandemic, we become more creative, right? Like you mentioned, some of the technology tools, like what is that? The first one is the Pear Deck. Yeah. Before of that, you mentioned about Nearpod. To be honest, I just heard that from you. Intriguing. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for that. And then I want to move to the question and answer session, Mr. Kiki. We have the first question. Oh, Mr. Benny left the text in Thai. What is that? What is the meaning? Okay, the question from Ibu Joyce, Miss Joyce. Mr. Kiki, how about your students' impression about the new paradigm of teaching and learning process using games or technology? Yeah.
All
Do you want to
right.
answer that directly, Mr. Kiki, or we wait for other questions? Or
I think I will answer that right now.
okay, sure.
So I think the students, well, in relation to concerning the online interactive response systems that I'm using in my online classes, I did some research on it. For Pear Deck, it was very successful. Students were very satisfied. For the flipped classroom also. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you guys this. All right, so this is the paper for the flipped classroom, the first one, the first model, and the students also showed satisfactions, really high satisfactions on the models and the involvement of interactive response systems that we are using. I'm also now writing a paper on the use of interactive online response systems as a whole, like the Kahoot quizzes and other things. And from the research I did, the students were also enjoying the online classes more when these tools are used. Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Ibu Joyce, are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kiki.
You.
Yeah, dear participants, we still have time. So if you guys, if everyone has, Mr. Kiki and the others, because I'm a lecturer, like guys, I call my students guys. So everyone here, if you guys have, if everyone here have question, please. Okay, Miss Hilda. Wow, long question from Miss Hilda.
Wow.
Okay, hello, I've got a question for the three speakers, if possible. Okay, but first for you, Mr. Kiki, the case is senior students teaching freshmen, so age gap is quite close, while the breakout room feature on Zoom may be very useful for pair or group work. So how do we handle if the students do nothing but remain silent? It happens in my class as well, Miss Hilda. And then while we thought that breakout room might evoke them to talk, sometimes it's pretty much to opposite, but I wonder if any of the speakers has experienced this situation, and what should the teachers do to make them active and talk? How to make them active? What do you think, Mr. Kiki?
All right. So what
you have
I'm
any
doing?
concern for that? Yeah, answer for that.
I also am experiencing the same problem. I think it's like a worldwide problems, right? Like to get students participate in our classes. What I do,
Exactly.
however, is I use these tools. So the students, it's okay if they don't turn on their cameras, up to them. But they have to join the activities that I'm doing during my class. So they have to join Pair Deck, for example. And every prompt like this, like if I ask them to draw their favorite food, then I will check. Actually, this is the free version, okay? But in the premium version, you can even like see the students who don't respond to you. And then these students, you can call their names. That is what I'm doing. And I think when we are doing our online classes, instead of focusing on students who don't want to respond, it's better to focus on students who want to respond, students who want to learn. So if there are only a few usually, right, students who don't really focus and pay attention, and it's just if we like focus too much on them, it's just going to make the atmosphere during the class not good and make the learning environment not conducive even for those who actually are willing to learn. So if there are students who don't want to listen, let them, and then we'll see in the test what are they going to do. Right. Does that answer your question?
Miss Hilda, are you there?
Yes, pretty much that answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Kiki and Miss Desi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Miss Hilda.
There
Okay,
is
we
one
move
more question, Miss Desi. I think someone raised hand there.
Yeah, Miss Irmala.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I go just directly to Pak Kiki?
Yes, please.
Sure, sure.
You mentioned earlier that your class are having like pre-test and then post-test, and it happens like weekly for every meeting. Do you give your students feedback? And then whether your class is based on portfolio or test-based?
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Irmala. Right. So for my classes, I do formative assessment every week, but we don't do pre-test and post-test every week. We do pre-test only at the beginning of the term or the semester, and then the post-test at the end of the semester. The formative assessments that we do every week consist of, yes, mini quizzes and also feedback. So we do give students feedback every week, and then we actually talk to them what they are, what problems they are facing. And we actually also talk about the problems with our colleagues. So we are working in a small group of 3. So we are going to talk about how to solve the problems together, because we are teaching the same course, just different sections, different groups of students. And usually the students are having similar problems. So to tackle these problems, we are trying to find the solutions together. So even though we did the pre-test at the beginning of the semester and the post-test at the end of the semester, during the semester, we are doing the formative assessment, which consists of the mini quizzes. Some graded, some are not graded, but we will tell the students beforehand if the tests are graded or not graded. And also we are going, of course, to give feedback. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Irmala. All right. I think we are in the end of the session for your part, Mr. Kiki. But we need your closing statement for all of us. Could you please share that with all of us? Thank you, Mr. Kiki.
Okay, right. I think teaching online, teaching amid the pandemic is challenging. Please know that you are not alone in this. You are not the only one having the problems. We are all having the problems, no matter where you are. I'm in Thailand, I'm having problems. People in the UK, in the US are having similar problems to us. However, when we have problems like this, there are so many resources we can learn from, we can study from. If you want to check out the recent studies that people do, then you can go to Google Scholars and then find the recently published manuscripts that also address the problems that we are having. I think it's very important to learn from each other. A symposium like this is also a great way in order for us to share our experiences and get to know each other's methods and techniques, and we can apply them in our classes. Thank you very much, everyone. Keep fighting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kiki. Wow, we got a lot of insights today. So everyone, dear participants, please give the appreciation by clicking the reaction button for Mr. Kiki.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, now we go to the second speaker, Dr. Sander Dochin from Curtin University, Australia. So please welcome Dr. Sander Dochin. And before of that, I would like to read your CV first. Okay, let me read your CV to everyone here. Dr. Sander Dochin is a senior research fellow at the School of Education, Curtin University, and a Discovery Early Career Research Fellow, lead of Applied Linguistics and Languages Group. She has authored numerous articles in international peer-reviewed journals such as Applied Linguistics, Journals of Sociolinguistics, System TESOL, and so on. And also her first book, Language, Media, and Globalization in the Periphery, was published in 2018. And then her second book about language, social media, and ideologies was published by Springer in 2020. Oh, many books that have published Dr. Dochin. Very interesting. Congrats, Dr. Dochin. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you
so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me for this symposium. I think it's very important symposium because, as Kiki said, you know, we are all living in this together. We don't know when is the end, so we're just waiting for the end. But it seems like there is another new strain in South Africa. Maybe you heard the news, so we don't know when is the end. So we have to keep doing this kind of symposium, I guess. But
yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Sure, we can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
okay, the time is yours. Yeah.
Because last time I did a presentation and I changed my slides, but my slides were not changing. So I want to make sure this time the slides are changing. Is it changing?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's changing.
Okay, so,
it's showing up. Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
so I want to make sure everything is working. So today I will just talk about a little bit about my research. As you can see, I'm a researcher. I'm a senior research fellow at Curtin University. What I do is I do research. I do conduct studies rather than teaching. So my experience compared to Kiki's is a bit different because, to be honest with you, I haven't really did the online teaching and learning with students during the COVID pandemic time because I'm a researcher. So what I do is I go out and meet people, I do research, and I publish articles and books about my research. So that's the difference. So today I will talk a little bit about from the researcher's perspective, if you know what I mean, yeah? So Kiki's perspective was about the teacher's perspective as a teacher practitioner, but mine will be from more from a researcher's perspective. So, and I'll be talking about my research, which is, my research is about linguistic racism. So how students, our teachers are dealing with linguistic racism in relation to impact of COVID at academic institutions. So that would be my topic for today. I hope it will be useful. So, okay.
Minta maaf Pak Wibowo, mungkin bisa di mute Pak. Pak Wibowo Kosasi, mohon maaf. Ya, terima kasih.
Sorry, did I miss something? Can I continue?
Yeah, sure, you can continue that. Yeah.
Okay, so as we all know that according to UNESCO, more than 1.5 billion students and young people across the planet are or have been affected by university closures due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as the world enters a second year living with the COVID-19 pandemic, half of the global student population is still affected by full or partial university closures. And we need to really commend for national governments and the countries for their quick response to provide alternative options through online teaching and learning, or maybe televised lessons and rapid distribution of print-based materials. And for those who have no access on the internet or TV, these was also print-based materials. So a key lesson we have learned from the past 2 years since the outbreak of the pandemic is the significant role that educators, university educators, teachers, and lecturers are playing to ensure that learning is continuous. So once universities reopen, students will depend on their teachers and will be able to continue their education in a safe and supportive and healthy environment and manners. So today, in terms of Curtin University, Curtin University is located in Western Australia in the city of Perth. So luckily in the city of Perth in Western Australia, we were not necessarily, much affected by COVID due to our very strict premier's policy and rules, and due to very strict border. I guess one of the strictest border controls in the world right now happening. So because of that, we didn't really have a much spread of COVID in Western Australia. We did have, of course, cases on a daily basis, but it was very much controlled. But when we did have new cases coming up in Western Australia, there was always the snap lockdown, So if we say in the morning there was a new case, in the afternoon there would be a snap lockdown, so we can't go back to university campus, we can't go back to school, so everybody going back to where we were, online learning and teaching, right? So, but saying that, because we don't have new cases coming up, knock on wood, so universities are back in Western Australia. So we are all fully back on campus. The COVID, we have reopened, schools are reopening, and the university campuses are all open. So I can tell you about my experience about how campuses are open and how learning and teaching are happening on campus. because according to Kiki now, it is still not on campus, it is still online in the context of Thailand, right? So that's a bit different from from Thailand context, because we are back on campus at the moment. So especially at our university, at Curtin University, I will tell you some of the experiences we had at Curtin University when we all went back to on campus and how we are doing this at the moment. So returning to university campus in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, it has introduced a completely new set of protocols and responsibilities. But Curtin University has like 3 roadmaps to go back into campus. You know, so roadmap 1 is obviously the safe university operations. So what do we mean by safe university operations? So when students were back on campus, the most important thing was we were going to we were going to inform our students and teachers and staff members what is really COVID. We really need to understand about the COVID-19. So what we need to do about what we need to know about COVID-19. For example, how does it spread? What are the signs? How can I protect myself, right? What are the symptoms? How does it, who is most at risk? What is the treatment for COVID? And we also try to debunk some of the myths about COVID-19. So that was our first roadmap back on campus. And then, of course, there were very strict campus and classroom protocols at Curtin campus. So we had physical distancing, maintaining a distance of at least 1 meter between everyone present at school. And we did increase the desk spacing, right? So at least 1 meter between desks. And then we have limited the mixing of classes for university activities. For example, students in the class will stay in one classroom throughout the day while teachers are moving or between the classes, yeah. And then we also try to increase the number of teachers if possible for only a fewer students per classroom. Classroom always had a maximum amount of people depending on the space of the classroom. And then, of course, the hygiene, washing your hands and hand sanitizers and so forth, clean surfaces are all in effect on Curtin campus still now. So that was our first roadmap at Curtin campus. And roadmap number 2 was the students and teachers and staff members' well-being and protection was very important for Curtin. So well-being is not just how we feel physically, but well-being is also the way we feel emotionally and mentally is the part of our overall student and teachers' well-being. So physical well-being also affects the emotional well-being. So well-being was very important for us as well, especially in terms of students' well-being when we were on campus, because as you can see, 1 in 5 college students say their mental health has significantly worsened under the COVID-19 and so forth, right? So we really concentrated on how to improve our students' well-being. So how did we do that? Well, we try to identify sort of who really needs help. So we identified available service providers in the area on campus, and then we referred to them our Curtin psychologist service, and we promoted activities that enhance students' emotional well-being on the university campus. And the same goes to our university teachers as well, because 52% of education professionals say their mental health being has significantly declined during the global pandemic. So the same went to teachers' well-being as well when we all went back to on campus. Now the roadmap number 3 was back to learning, of course. So how do we do it back to learning? What was important for us to do? What was the most important thing for us when we were back on campus? So obviously the most important thing for our students was managing lost learning. So most of our students, they have informed to us that, it's really difficult to learn online, So we really prefer learning face-to-face. So we really want to manage our lost learning. So how do we do that? Obviously, lost learning is a big task, which was ahead of us. So we try to encourage all our students really return to campus, So we really want to encourage our teachers also to, really encourage them to come to campus, and together, we wanted to work on that. So what we did was we tried to sort of identify what is really missing in terms of learning. So as Kiki said, we did some formative assessments in terms of lost learning. So we also, conducted needs analysis. What is needs analysis is basically, we really wanted our students, what they want to catch up in terms of learning, right? So things like that, catching up with the lost learning. But you know what? Even though we tried to catch up with our missed learning, there was a very new sort of strategies for us, because we didn't really want to ditch, the hybrid learning strategies, because we know one day there will be another new case, there will be another snap lockdown. So they always have to be a plan B, which is hybrid learning strategies, very important to keep. So even if you go back to campus, please don't, think that, hybrid learning is not the way, because this is the new way of learning at COVID-19 pandemic education. Hybrid learning, plan B, has always had to be there. So we are still, have in our suitcase or in our plate that, implementing hybrid learning strategy is very important. The role of the teacher is very crucial. Although face-to-face is very crucial, remote is also very crucial, right? So we need to think about what facilities and resources we need to provide our students, engaging content, opportunities, support for students. So blended learning, online learning was also very important for us. And then, of course, we try to build a very supportive learning environment on campus. So we want to embrace hands-on experiential learning, consolidate our student services, counseling services, right? And we have to, focus on the campus community and creativity, and all this is, we try to redesign our students' experience on campus. So I just explained 3 roadmaps in terms of how we were, we reopened our campus at Curtin, and what's still happening, all of these roadmaps, right? But today, my main focus is on related to stigma and COVID-19, which is really much related to what I do as a researcher. So since the outbreak of the COVID-19, there have been an increase of, stigmas, discrimination, social exclusion, racism, and so forth. And this is especially very much popular. This is very much, happening in the multicultural context like Australia, if you know what I mean, because Australia is a multicultural country. We have a lot of immigrants, migrants, international students, who are living in Australia, and we have our Curtin campuses, for example, very much international multicultural campus, right? But together with that, these will go to the students' well-being as well, emotional well-being. When students were back on campus, right? Or when students were not on campus, there were a lot of stigmatization, racism, and discrimination against international students, because people have all these myths and people have all these wrong ideas and stereotypes about the COVID-19 viruses in terms of, especially Asian students, Asian background students, So because COVID-19 started in Wuhan, China, obviously the Chinese students were one of the main, targets. But, on campus, we really need to advocate the fact that viruses don't discriminate, and neither should we, So we have to be in solidarity, and we have to fight against the spread of COVID-19 on campus and beyond campus, beyond classroom. So today I will talk about this in relation to my research. So here I published a special issue in terms of linguistic racism, which was published in the International Journal of Bilingual Education and Bilingualism. So in this special issue, I invited the key researchers in the field of linguistic racism. And then we talked about, how linguistic racism happened in relation to COVID-19 and beyond. So in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously, the world has really saw a significant increase in the incidence of both explicit and implicit racism against the global Asian community. So, for example, in Australia, several Asian family homes were defaced with abusive, racially charged messages such as "death to dog eaters," "COVID-19," "China die." Asian students or Asian background doctors have been verbally abused, accused of bringing Wuhan virus, China virus in Australia. So such explicit form of verbal abuse are very much an illustrative case of linguistic racism. And it is really much affecting our international students' emotional well-being to encounter and to actually combat, this pandemic. So, because of this discrimination and so forth, Asian students in Australia, they stood together in solidarity, saying, "I'm not a virus, virus doesn't discriminate," and so forth. And here are some of the my research in terms of linguistic racism, in terms of COVID-19 pandemic, and also some of the issues related to one's identity, and so forth, in terms of stigma and COVID-19. So I will explain quickly about my study, what I did at Curtin University. So we have interviewed around 150 culturally and linguistically diverse background, migrant background people in Australia. And from that 150, around 50 were international students with Asian backgrounds. And we also had a focus group discussions with around 50 culturally and linguistically diverse background participants and students. And our participants' backgrounds were, as you can see, most of them were Asian, Mongolian, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean. And we also had Thai students. We also have an Indonesian, Malaysian, and also some from Africa, Sudanese, Italian, and then Eastern European, and also many other regional students. So our study shows that the COVID-19 related stigma and linguistic racism is very much happening at the moment, and we really need to do something to navigate this issue and to combat this issue. Because on top of learning, hybrid learning, all this online teaching and English and so forth, students are also, personally, they are very much affected by the linguistic racism or linguicism in relation to COVID-19. So I will quickly explain what do I mean by linguistic racism. So linguistic racism is basically, we have theorized that, it is a discrimination or racism based on individuals' use of English. So, for example, if you're living in a multicultural context like Australia, and you speak sort of a different sort of English, like, if your English has a little bit of accent or dialects, or I say Asian accents, somebody from Japan, China speaks different kind of English, and then they become the target of the racism or discrimination because they can't speak proper English. So that's part of the linguistic racism. And also when you speak, for example, not English, when you speak your heritage language, say like Thai or Chinese or Mongolian, in Australian context, they don't necessarily, are valued, highly valued. Only the standard Australian English is valued. All other heritage languages are not valued. So that's also the unfair treatment of individuals based on their use of heritage language, how they speak English or how they speak their heritage language. So basically the individual's basic human rights are under attack due to fundamentally how they speak. So linguistic racism or linguicism is based on those isms, right? Racism, sexism, classism, but then we say linguicism based on how they speak certain languages. Now, linguistic racism is divided into two parts. The first part is overt linguistic racism. What do we mean by overt linguistic racism? This is a form of linguistic racism that is expressed through explicit mockery, mimicking, or derogatory language, or accent bullying, or malicious sarcasm. So I guess in terms of COVID-19 pandemic, we are, especially international students with Asian backgrounds in Australia, they're experiencing a lot of overt linguistic racism because, you see all these linguistic landscapes and signs everywhere saying, Asians brought, this virus, Wuhan virus. and so forth. So it's kind of, also the race hate talks, the written discourses, racial slurs or name calling, verbal and written abuse, they are all part of the overt linguistic racism, especially in terms of COVID-19 pandemic. We are very much experiencing overt linguistic racism, and we really need to do something about this, yeah? As you can see here in the public transport, some of the people are very much overtly, discriminate in the public transport, which is very common. Also at school, on campus, university, some people, sort of like, okay, stay away from these Asian students. She might have a COVID or something like that. That's part of the COVID-19 pandemic over linguistic racism. But linguistic racism can also happen in terms of covert linguistic racism. And what do we mean by covert linguistic racism? It's, it's very much silent linguistic racism. It's maybe giving compliments to somebody, saying, wow, your English is really good. You look Asian, and, we don't think Asians speak really good English, but your English is really good. But that person can be the second generation or third generation of Asian Australian, right? Also making inside jokes, and covert linguistic racism can happen a lot at workplace or academic institutions, university, campus, schools, it can happen in terms of social exclusion. People don't really want to involve you in your talk or in your group activities. They avoid you, right? Or sometimes one of my research participants says, Russian accent, some people think it's very sexy, but I don't think calling my accent sexy is not a good idea, because I feel very disheartened, right? Things like that. Or parents are telling their kids, you should stay away from that kid, that's like an silent way of, hidden way of, discriminating people. So why linguistic racism is happening is the question. It's because of these unequal Englishes we have today, because, standard English, such as American English, Australian English, or Canadian English, native English, such so-called native English, so-called British English, they are very powerful. And somebody who speaks those varieties of English considered as powerful. Whereas people who are not, who don't speak this kind of English, they have a very weak position. So linguistic racism comes from there. And also racial linguistics, racial linguistics means when somebody looks different race, not necessarily Anglo-Saxon, they're pretty much the victim of linguistic racism. For example, when somebody from China looks Chinese, they can become the linguistic racism. So what happened to our research participants was due to the linguistic racism, especially the international students on campus, where they were very much affected by this linguistic racism happening in terms of COVID-19 pandemic. And they had a very big psychological distress. Some of them, they even had suicidal ideation. They had major depression. They couldn't, focus on their studies. They couldn't do it online, but offline. And then because of the psychological distress, it can also, affect one's poor health behaviors, such as eating disorder, drug abuse, alcoholism, and so forth. So this was our research result. The stigma in COVID-19 and international students, or just overall students, who has COVID or had COVID or going to have a COVID, we need to really stand together to fight this, yeah? So we have to be as educators, as language educators, as applied linguists, as English teachers, we really need to be very careful the way we talk and the words we use in the context of COVID-19 to promote, the negative perceptions and stigmatization. When we're talking about, for example, coronavirus disease, certain words needs to be removed. We should not use this. For example, suspect cases, isolations, and because these languages may have a very much negative meaning for people, and it also fuels the stigmatizing attitudes. They can perpetuate existing negative stereotypes or assumptions and strengthen false associations between the disease and other factors, and create widespread fear or dehumanize those who have the disease, actually. And this can actually drive your students away from getting screened, tested, or quarantined, you know, because they don't want to do that because they have been the victim of the stigmatization. They don't want to do any of those, right? So we have to be very careful as educators and practitioners and researchers when we use these kind of COVID-19 related words. Talking about people who have COVID-19, people who are being treated for COVID-19, people who are recovering from COVID-19 rather than cases or victims or suspected cases, you know? Because as you can see, suspected case is one form of linguistic racism. You know, why would you suspect that person, right? So perhaps we have to concentrate on how do we euphemize and make it better for people who really, for students who have COVID-19. Talking about people who may have COVID-19 rather than COVID-19 suspects or suspected cases. Talking about people acquiring or contracting COVID-19 rather than people infecting other people, right? So when we talk about our students, we can talk about, you know, our students are contracting and acquiring, but, you know, you shouldn't say our students are infecting others, right? Because it can be very harsh on students' emotional well-being. Part of showing slowing the spread of the virus is overcoming this stigma, linguistic racism, encouraging all people or our students and teachers on campus who notice the symptoms to get tested. It is important to think about the language and the type of words you can use in your classroom when talking to your students about the virus. So I would like to finish my talk, you know, never make fun of someone who speaks broken English because it means they know another language, because this is the big part of the linguistic racism that is happening, yeah? So these are some of the books I have published, and these books have more or less, they talk about linguistic discrimination, exclusion, and so forth. So thank you so much. This is all I have to say for today. So I would say in order to make your classroom a very safe space for all your students, you must be very much mindful and sensitive when dealing with the discussions around COVID-19. With your classroom, you can create even do's and don't lists, you know, on the terminology and language to use in the context of 19, right? COVID-19. And it is also very important to send information to home, to their parents with students, on the appropriate and suitable wording or expressions to use in the classroom. You can even, you know, teach English in terms of what kind of negative words are here to really affect, you know, the emotional well-being of students, or linguistic racism. What kind of words we can actually use to make it better for people, for our students who got COVID, right? So you can even make the classroom that effective. And remind your students that people who are sick of COVID-19, they have done nothing wrong, you know? So let's not treat them differently. COVID-19 doesn't mean someone has less value than anyone else. So that's the main, you know, I mean, that's the main lesson of my presentation, I guess. I think I finished a bit quicker, but that's fine. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Dovchin. Very, very outstanding presentation. So yeah, so from what I learned from your presentation, so you want to highlight here about the impact of COVID-19, right, in our daily teaching and learning practices, especially at the academic institutions. Very interesting. You mentioned about the linguistic racism. Because I also, my background also linguistics. I took my master for linguistics program. So this is really interesting. Maybe suddenly it came to my mind when you mentioned about it. Wow, this is really interesting to take this kind of conduct this research about this linguistic racism during this COVID-19 pandemic. Really interesting for us, especially the lecturers at this. Sorry, for all of us as the educators and the researchers. Yeah, I agree with you totally. All right, so we will have the question and answer session, 10 minutes for about 10 minutes. And after that, Dr. Dovchin will give like the closing remarks or closing statement for all of us. Okay, if everyone here has question, or you guys want to ask her directly, everyone, the participants here, please. Okay. Oh, Miss Norma has question. All right. So it was mentioned earlier that in Australia, the government make effort to support students affected by the pandemic well-being pandemic with policies like the provision of psychologists and others in the case of developing countries, which are still struggling even with the basic issue like real healthcare, etc. Are there individual initiatives that lecturers can do to at least reduce the impact of the pandemic on and support students' well-being with stress, potential racism, etc. And thank you for the insight. To that to you, Dr. Dovchin. My question would be: it was mentioned earlier that in Australia, the government make.
Actually, that's the same questions, Ms.
Yeah.
Des.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Let
All
that be
right.
first.
Thank you, Ms. Norma,
Okay.
for
Yeah.
the interesting question. So, Dr. Dovchin, time is yours to answer this question from Ms. Norma.
Okay, I just have to make sure if I understood the question correctly. So in Australia, the Australian government's policy is to support the students' emotional well-being through, all these available resources such as psychologists and counselors and available service providers. But in other part of the world, especially the part in the global south, it's a different story. Yeah. So the question is, it's very different. So that I understood, but I didn't quite understand what is the question.
Yeah, so as you pretty much mentioned before, that in Australia, at least there is an effort, right, from the government to support, well-being, like providing psychology, center and stuff like that. But that's not always the case with other countries, right? There are developing countries who might not, still struggle, or who might still struggle with even basic, healthcare and stuff, and might not be able to provide those kind of, provisions. Is there any individual initiatives that lecturers can take or can do to at least reduce the impact of pandemic in terms of students' well-being?
Yes. Okay. Now I
mean, without the government support or policies.
Thank you, Norma. I think, the educators and teachers, lecturers in the global south, they are doing a great job, because it's still a very much unequal society. It's still the access to resources is very much unequal and uneven. As you say, well, at least Australia have service providers and psychologists and counselors who can help the students and teachers. But I do understand that, in many parts of the world, you don't have it available, and teachers are just doing whatever available resources they have, right? So I should applaud those teachers who are doing this great job. I have a Mongolian background. I'm Mongolian, and Mongolia is also a country very much, in the global south. And when I look at Mongolian teachers, they don't have these available resources. You can't just refer somebody to a psychologist, and psychologist is just available there. It's very basic, very basic, right? So, and I look at Mongolian teachers and educators, and they're just, they're very much working really hard. So they try to use all these available resources, materials, information they have, and then they're trying to apply that in the classroom. And I think it's working, because our responsibility as educators and teachers and researchers are very much, have to empower our students. That should be our main goal, right? So you shouldn't feel bad for doing that, You, as an educator, your aim is to empower your students. So I would say it's very much a great initiative to work with your student, to work through that. But just don't burn out yourself, because you have to look after yourself as well. You have to take care of yourself as well, right? So that's what that's what I think. And I think you're doing a great job. And also this symposium, this is a great symposium where, everyone is sort of like sharing our experiences, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norma. Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay, now we go on to the next one from Mr. Chandra. Dr. Dovchin, this is an intriguing topic. I have a question. Australian English have a unique accent. Was there any incident when international students experienced discomfort because they couldn't speak Australian accent and got maybe discriminated, like got ignored or mocked or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, this has been
interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a very big issue in Australia, unfortunately. You know, Australia is a multicultural country, we all know, but the standard Australian English is the language, you know, is very much promoted. So even though Australia is a very much multicultural society, it's a very monolingual society too, because, you know, we encourage people to speak standard Australian English. And if your English is not necessarily a standard Australian English, you could easily become the victim of the linguistic racism. And linguistic racism is very much underexplored trend in research, because we look at all other racisms, racism based on one's skin color, racism based on one's religion, right? Racism based on one's, you know, even gender discrimination. But, you know, the language-based discrimination is one of the least studied research in applied linguistics in our field. So we really need to, you know, but, you know, language is so important for us, you know, it's the identity performance. As soon as we open our mouth, it's all about who we are, right? People look at your face and you start talking, people really much judge you. If your English is really good, you're like, oh, you must be a very smart intellectual person. And then if your English is not very good, you can be, you know, judged, misjudged. So that's very common here, and especially for international students, because international students are, you know, they have, most of them have non-English speaking backgrounds, and they learn the English in their home countries, and they give this test like IELTS or TOEFL test, and then they come to Australia and they get overwhelmed by all of these monolingual ideologies, right? And then they also try to do some part-time work and casual work to support themselves, right? And then it becomes so much for them. So international students are very much the victim of linguistic racism, and especially with the pandemic COVID-19, especially the Asian students and Chinese students, or, you know, if you look Asian, people assume you are Chinese. And then, you know, you start getting all of these linguistically racist expressions against you, saying like Wuhan virus, you know, stay away from me, you brought this virus to Australia, and things like that. And then it really affected many international students. I think right now our international students' mental health well-being, emotional well-being is very much jeopardized, and we need to do something about this. So that's the challenge here in Australia about Asian background international students, which is, I guess, quite different from your context, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Mr. Chandra, are you there? Are you satisfied with the answer? Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you mentioned about the judgmental about related to the language. I think many countries feel the same. I mean, this kind of situation, especially for the international students, Dr. Dovchin. I totally agree with you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we still have one question from Ibu Joyce, Miss Joyce. Dr. Dovchin, how we tackle the youth linguistic racism in the classroom, especially when we teach freshman students? That's her question. Can you unmute?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I think, you know, raising awareness about any kind of racism and discrimination is good for our students, not only linguistic racism, right? Because students have to learn what is right and what is wrong, because some of our students, they don't really know what they're, even, you know, they joke around, they joke about somebody's accents or dialects, and they think it's very funny, they tease each other. But you know, when you come to countries like Australia, and when you do that, you might as well become, you know, like, you know, oh, you are being linguistically racist, you're wrong, you know. So as educators and teachers, we really need to raise our students' awareness about what is racism, what is language-based racism, you know, what is gender-based racism and things like that. What is age-based racism? What is religion-based racism? So racism is a big topic in Western countries, especially in post-industrial countries like Australia, USA, UK. And, you know, if you don't know all about this and you come to these countries as international students, you can become yourself a victim, or you can become even yourself a perpetrator without even knowing, right? So it's very, very sensitive topic here. And I think I would encourage our educators to start actually looking at the research about linguistic racism. For example, if you are a teacher of English, you can look at the concepts of linguistic racism, because it's about English language, you know, and then you can make a nice lecture, you can make a nice presentation in the class and talk about it with your students. You can relate it to COVID-19, as I said, you know, what kind of appropriate expressions are in English in terms of COVID-19, not to discriminate the people with COVID-19. So I think it will be a great topic for our students, and I encourage our, you know, students to learn more about discrimination and racism.
Okay, Ibu Joyce, are you satisfied with the answer? Can you please unmute, Miss Joyce?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Dovtin. Yes, I agree with you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Miss Joyce. Okay, I think, oh, Miss Irmala said perception is hard to, Miss Nirmala, do you want to ask Dr. Dovtin directly?
Yeah. I'm more interested in the linguistic part. I'm not really interested in racism. Indonesia has faced racism, I think, more religious related. Yeah, everything here is religion related, and I don't really want to talk about it. It's hard to choose a stand because people are easily offended by it here, especially here. But for the linguistic aspect, I'm really interested in that. How do we select that this words is bad, this word is racist, these words are not? How do we do that?
In terms of linguistic racism? You know, I mean, we can't really like go and define and categorize every single expressions and every single gestures, right? So what we are saying here is my research is based on 150 participants interviews, 150 participants narratives that they gave us, right? So we analyzed the data and we categorize it as overt linguistic racism and covert linguistic racism. But you know, how we defined was very much related to our participants' psychological well-being as well. So if our participants said, you know, when he said that to me, I felt really, you know, I felt so disheartened, I felt so bad, it just affected me really emotionally. So we really try to sort of, you know, connect the linguistic racism part to the psychological part, so that we can really understand how it affects the victims. But, you know, the perpetrators, they don't really know when they said that sort of the racist words and expressions, when they said that to the victims, they don't know how the victims would feel, right? Sometimes it can be intentional, sometimes it can be unintentional. So it's very, very complex, and I can't just define this is racist or this is unracist, right? But what I can say is there is a thing called linguistic racism, yeah? There is a thing called linguistic racism. It can affect people who have been the victims of linguistic racism. You know, we need to really work with more people, you know, the more participants, the more data, so that we can make a difference, and our study should be out there. So that's what I can say, really. Yeah.
If we are to do the same research, just say I would like to make the same research as yours, but in Indonesian context, do I need to perform like a questionnaire in order to find out whether they are emotionally affected by those words?
Yeah, what we did was, ours was a qualitative study, Irmala. So what we did was interviews, right? Semi-structured interviews. So we invite our participants. We have around 15 questions. And then the questions are semi-structured questions. So it's not like, strict questions. So one question leads to other. One question can lead to other. That's the qualitative research. You really dig deep what the other person says, what the other person's gonna give us. You can also do the online survey or quantitative study, but then it can't be semi-structured because the questions would be very strict, right? So you might not be able the answer you want to get, but still it's very much, valid because it's a statistics. So if you're going to make a online survey, say like with 500 people, and from that 500 people, maybe 400 people said this, 100 people said that, that's a great outcome as well. The thing is, you wouldn't have that more detailed qualitative part, right? Okay. And I would say in the Indonesian or Malaysian context, in terms of linguistic racism, these countries are, I would say, very much multicultural as well. You have lots of languages, right? You are multilingual. You have lots of dialects. You have lots of different, I guess, indigenous languages. And so I'm sure there will be unequal, exclusion, unequal privileged dialect or underprivileged dialect and accents like that. Because with me, with the Mongolian background, when I go to Mongolia, for example, the people who live in the far western part of Mongolia, they speak very differently from the urban people. And then the urban people, they really discriminate those people, They're like, they don't even give them a job, employment opportunity or interviews because their Mongolian is so different, So it doesn't really have to be also about English if you really think about the local context. Because when we think about our ethnic minorities in Mongolia, like Kazakh people, they can't speak proper Mongolian. And because of that, they can't have employment opportunities as majority Mongolians, for example. Linguistic racism is everywhere. It's just mine is in the context of Australia. So I have to talk about English,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dovchin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, I think Miss Nirmala is very satisfied with the answer. Am I right, Miss Nirmala?
Yeah, thank you.
Miss Nirmala, sorry.
I'm very much happy to meet everyone here. And if you have any questions or anything, just email me. I'm very much accessible through my emails. I'm very happy to support your research in any way I can.
Absolutely.
Can I DM you through Twitter, Dr. Dovchin?
Yeah.
Can I contact you through Twitter? You are quite active.
I am on Twitter. I am on Facebook.
Yeah, yes. I have followed you. I have followed you.
He's your friend.
You are nice. You are really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you send me Facebook request, I'll add you straight away because my Facebook is very public.
Yeah.
I prefer Twitter. Facebook is for all people here.
Yes.
Thank you, Miss Nirmala. Wow,
you,
very, very good question from her. Thank you. All right, Dr. Dovchin. So we almost come to the end of the session for your part, but for the last one, you have to state the closing remark for all of us so that we can learn more. Thank you, Dr. Dovchin.
So I will have to stay until the
closing statement from you. All right. Dr. Dovchin?
Oh, sorry. I
thought that you were disappeared. Like, where are you?
Sorry. I said there was one more presentation.
We need your closing statement, the conclusion.
Conclusion for
from your presentation. Your presentation.
So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned at least a little bit about COVID-19 pandemic and so forth from a new perspective, a little bit, So hopefully we as teachers as educators, as linguists, as as practitioners, we all work together on this, and we somehow get over it one day, and we meet in person happily one day, either in Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia. We have a social linguistics symposium. One of the biggest conferences is happening in our field at Curtin University in 2024 in Perth, Western Australia. And I know you all are very close to Perth in Asia. I welcome everyone to participate in our symposium. Please send your abstract in, because I'm the chair.
Oh.
Yay.
Yay.
Cannot wait,
That's good.
Dr. Dovchin. Yeah, we can make the collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah, from BINUS and other universities here in Indonesia.
Yes,
Wow.
it's very close to Western Australia. Please come and say hi and present your
Yeah.
Thank you. That's my closing remark.
Yeah, thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
Very, very outstanding presentation. So everyone, please give the appreciation by clicking the reaction button for Dr. Dovchin. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we cannot wait for the third presenter, our co-worker, especially Miss Joyce, Mr. Wisnu Broto. I want to see you, Mr. Wisnu. Are you there? I'm calling you
Here.
from here.
Can you hear
From
me?
Indonesia, from Bandung. I'm in Bandung, sir. To Ohio.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay,
hear
good.
you
Okay,
clearly.
good. Yeah. So my name is Vishnu, and right now is 11 o'clock and 6 p.m. here. So it's totally in the opposite of what you have been doing now. And it's totally very cold today. So it's almost winter. So the weather now is, let me check.
That's why you are wearing the jacket, right?
Actually, I'm having I turn on the heater, but still, yeah, -3. You can see this.
-3. Oh, it's
Yeah,
cold
it's nothing.
there. Yeah.
It's nothing. It's gonna be -27. So just wait for a while. So anyway, so hello, and
Please
then
welcome, yeah, Mr. Wisnu.
yeah. Okay, so what am I supposed to do today? Everybody's talking all the things. So all the things that I have to say is
We were waiting for you.
Okay. So
Because you're special.
nah. Okay, so hello everybody. So let me introduce myself. My name is Vishnu. I'm actually a teacher back then in BINUS. I'm a co-worker of Ibu Joyce, co-worker of Pak Chris, a good friend of Chandra, and everybody's here who are doing BINUS. So I've been in BINUS since 2005, and now I'm stranded in Athens, Ohio in USA. So pursuing my PhDs. So PhD is something that really, make your head damage, permanent head damage. But then it's just joke. But actually the PhD stands for a lot of things, But okay, I'm in a final stage of my dissertation. I'm writing on the.
Mr. Wisnu, sorry for disturb you. Yeah, I forgot to read your CV because I was so excited to see you. Can I read that your CV?
Yeah, you can, but I can tell about my whole life story from the beginning if you would like to hear what.
That from you.
From me? From me or from you? Okay.
From me.
Okay, so yeah. So I
your CV.
just had my birthday like 5 days ago. So happy birthday to me. So anyway.
Happy birthday, everyone.
If you like to know what happened. Okay. So you can start reading my CV.
Read yours.
I will confirm whether it's true or lie, okay?
All right. All right, everyone. So let me read Mr. Wisnu Broto CV. So start from the professional experience. So he was the manager of Language Center, BINUS University, Jakarta. Am I right?
Yeah, was.
Right.
It's still past tense, okay?
Okay. And then also he was the course coordinator for BINUS University. And then now he is a doctoral student at Ohio University in instructional technology, right? and your dissertation topic now. So long. I skipped this part, sorry, but it's interesting. And then he received his Master of Arts in American Studies. Wow. At University of Alabama, United States of America. Wow. And then also he got his bachelor in what is this? Sorry, English education at Sanata Dharma Teacher Training Institute. Wow. Sir, you graduated in 1987, right? Or 1993, sir.
Yeah, I graduated in 1993. So I'm pretty old. So
because I was born in 1987.
see.
And
Yeah, so
you,
it's yeah, I
wow.
just starting my BA there, my undergrad. Okay. So I'm pretty old. So
Okay.
you can look at my face, all those gray hairs and all of those, you know,
Okay, so
wrinkles.
next about your professional development and workshop. So you joined Fulbright Hubert H. Humphrey, is it right? Fellow
Yeah.
at Pennsylvania State University in
Yeah.
2013, and you joined the internship there. Wow! And then you joined the workshop on business administration and management at the Institute of International Education (IIE), and many honors and awards you got from Fulbright. So you are the Fulbright representative, sir. Congrats.
Well, I was a Fulbright when I got the stipend from them, but since I only have partial of them now, I'm a half bright. Now, of course, Fulbright. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah. So
okay, that's all. The time is yours, sir.
yeah. So cut the story short. So I'm graduated from University of Alabama. I graduated from UKM. I graduated from Santa Barbara. So my background is quite diverse. So my undergrad is in English education. My master's, my double master's is in American Studies. Well, now I'm doing instructional design and technology. So it is something to do with what I'm going to share today. So what I'm learning, what I'm studying now, and what I'm doing now research is on the instructional design and technology. So what is actually instructional design and technology? It's not like IT that you know that information technology. So instructional design of technology is something to do with education. But here, what we are focusing is how you use technology for teaching and learning effectively. So the key this is how do you connect the technology, whatever you have in the market, whether you want to create it or whether you just buy it somewhere in the market, you want to like apps, games, whatever, and use it for education. So what does it take? How can you design it? How can you do all of those required educational values in your teachings using technology? So technology can be used to help you for delivering content, help you to illustrate content, help you to assess and evaluate content, help you to be more efficient. Something like we did back then at Venus when we do the TOEFL test using the online method. So we did measuring thousands of students using the online TOEFL test. Yeah, so that's what we do. Just simple like that. So how the technology can help you becoming more efficient. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to combine, I think, both the previous speakers, the previous presenters. The first one is talking about how Pear Deck and all of those apps, we can call that, yeah, help you to teach. So but yeah, so what I learned here, actually I'm learning a lot of that. So I'm putting put a microscope on all of those apps and also LMS, like for example Blackboards, Canvas, Flipgrid, and Google Classroom. What is their strengths and weaknesses? How can you apply it? And then also the thing when you want to put it together, like the new technologies, say for example like artificial intelligence, chatbots, like when you use Google, how do you call that? Google Voice, or we have here is Amazon Alexa, when you can ask all of, see it's on. So when you can ask all of the information, how can you use that for education? So that's what we are going to talk about. And also VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, and all of those technology for teaching. So now I'm going to share some of my actually it's not a research, but actually this is what I did here. So besides I'm an instructional technology student, so I'm doing my doctoral degree. Actually a TA. TA is a teaching assistant. So here in US, if you're not familiar with what TA is, a teacher assistant is someone who has been assigned by the department to teach or to help professors. But in this case, I've been doing a full teaching under supervision of a professor. So what I'm teaching is called EDCT. It's a technology for teaching. So what I did is preparing materials and delivering materials for students who are in education majors, so that they got certificate. That certificate can be used to prove that they are able to use technology for teaching. So we are going to do both ways, not only for learning, but also for teaching this part. Okay, so let me share. Can you allow me to
Miss
screen
Norma?
share?
Yeah, or
Okay,
the host? Yeah.
screen sharing. I'm not familiar with Zoom. I usually use Microsoft Teams. So if I get so confused with this, so please understand that. So am I allowed to do that? All right, cool.
Okay.
Okay, so where is my presentation? Hey, not here. No, not here. Oh, this one. Okay. Share. Can you see this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Okay.
showing now. It's showing now.
Okay, you can see it. Okay. So where's this? Microsoft PowerPoint would like to access the microphone. Nope. Okay. So that's the thing about when you're using Microsoft in a Mac, there's always a problem with this. Anyway, can you see me? Because I cannot see your face here, but can you? It doesn't matter actually. Can you see the presentation, the slides?
Sure. It's showing.
Okay,
We can
good.
see that.
Okay, so the title is Teaching and Learning in the Time of Crisis, an Instructional Design and Technology Perspective. So I told you before that my background is instructional design and technology. So I've been, besides I'm teaching a class in the last semesters, I went to talk a bit about instructional design technology. So instructional design technology, as I said before, is how you use technology for the teaching and learning. And then, but besides that, it's also about learning design. So how do you design your instructions so that it can be understood for your teachers and also for your learners? So the design should be comprehensible, understandable, of course, and also very interactive, engaging, if it is possible, immersive, and also can be measured. So that kind of thing is really into our concern. So before the pandemic, what happened is that we combined those technology with a face-to-face interaction, which is quite easy, not actually easy. I'm comparing it with the after pandemic, which is quite more easily to be seen because you are there, you are interacting with the teacher, you talk with them, and then you use the technology. You just use your hands to do that, and then you can show how to do it. Yeah, so that's how it works. But after the pandemic, the story is different. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you from the very beginning. So the second one is the contents. What we are going to talk about is first is about our background a bit, and second is about how the COVID has changed the learning setting, and then instructional design technology during the pandemic, and then moving into and from the pandemic. So that's pretty much, I think, the third one is the same with the previous presenter from Australia. But anyway, let's talk about background. So compared with Australia that I heard, I don't know about the other country, but COVID in the US is quite chaotic. Just want to say this. When I first knew about what happened in US during there's a pandemic, there was a spring break here. So students are gone. There is no activity in the class. And then there is a rumor that class is closed. But there are two kinds of information which makes us confused. First is federal and the other in state. So federal means it's a government. the president and all of those ministers and secretaries, while the states is the state of Ohio, state of California, state of Iowa, or state of New York, for example, like that. So they all have their own laws. So if the federal say close the school, the state can say, no, we're not going to close the school. Yeah, so that's what happened. And it was during the spring break. So schools, universities around the country in US are closed. We're closed at that time. So what happened is the government at that time, the president was, the president with the funny hair before Biden. He said that this is not a flu. This is a common flu. Even he just mocked using the word Kung flu, something like that, if you remember. So nobody understand or what you call that, predict how serious it was. And then the state law, on the other hand, in this case, the Ohio governor, has taken it very seriously compared to the federal. So when spring break was still on, so students were still at their home, not at school, not at the dorm, not at their residential area here in the campus. So the government say, stay where you are, don't come to the campus until we tell you so. So what happened is that at that time there was nothing. There's nothing beyond expectation. I mean, no one is ready about. No one knows how big the scale is, and no one knows what to do. So that's scary. So we just wait at home. We just wait and wait until the emails and everything just come on. So it's not only the students who got confused, even the schools, the official schools, the officials of Board of Education, the officials of teachers, and then also faculties. We call it the teachers of faculties. They all go confused, and then they start trying to figure out what to do. And then what they do is they try to keep students at their home, close the dorm, and then they just close the schools, the door, the university, the campus, all these security measures were being applied. So what happened is when the spring semester starts after the spring break, they say that they are going to do it online. But what kind of online is that? Nobody knows what to do. So that's why my topic here is talking about that. Actually, from the instructional design perspectives, how do teachers cope with this kind of situation? So how do teachers cope in a time of crisis in terms of teaching and learning, and also the students too? So the issue actually pretty much been mentioned by the previous speakers at this time. So what happened is that what kind of support, what kind of roles university can do. So the university created some sort of institutional laws, you can call it. So they say some rules, they set some rules, they say this is what to do, this is what you cannot do, and students should do like this. So what about if they don't have any support? Like, for example, if they have to do online meeting, so what kind of support, what kind of platform, what kind of hardware do they have used? If they don't have laptops, what should university do about it? So that's a big issue about that. So what happened is that they developed some set of policy, you can call it, to determine the switch from face-to-face into online learning. And that kind of policy is by using technology, by using certain tools to help them communicate, to help them still have the interaction or the learning situation, we call that. So we try to make this conducive teaching learning environment. So that's what happened. And then we're not saying that people got confused, but I can say from the distance from here, because I couldn't see whether they're confused or not, but they also confused. They start to figure it out. And people, especially the universities, start calling like me, like people from the students, doctoral students who has a IT background, instructional technology background, to help to design the instructions and to help teachers to use technology for learning. So that's what I did. So besides I'm a TA, I'm also a IT support during that time. So we were using all of this, our resources, to help teachers. Yeah, so this is what happened. So we have learning settings during the pandemic. So this is some changes. So teaching and learning modes. Of course, I told you that from face-to-face into remote and learning. So that really give a big issue, especially for faculties who never use technology for the rest of their life. Yeah, they never use technology as much as before, as much as during the pandemic here. So they don't know how to operate remote learning, for example, like using Zoom or using Teams. And then so we have to teach them. We have to help them to do that. And then faculty and student preparedness, of course. Faculty, it means that if you want to introduce, like, for example, Pear Deck, Flipgrid, Edmodo, Moodle, whatever it is, you need more training for that. Those probably those faculty never heard about it, because as long as they're live, they just teach. They teach the way they know. So we have to prepare that. Of course, students also. Students are not familiar with some technology, for example. They don't know what to do. Yeah, sometimes I just mentioned that they don't know how to do formative assessment, like Kahoot or something like that. They're not familiar with that sometimes. Yeah, and then also like the previous presenter say, so this is kind of a mix between hybrid, blended, and full online learning. Some of them are using full online learning, some of them using blended, but yeah, most of us using more of hybrid. So we kind of move between, but that after we all got vaccinated. So when when almost all of the Americans got vaccinated, then we start moving to a more hybrid. So that changed a bit of the way teachers teach. But besides that, we have used full online learning, and there are a lot of trouble. Yeah, a lot of issues coming up. I will tell you about that later. So that's why about the technology and technical support. So the question is that what teachers need to know and learn. So what do they know about? So they know how to run LMS. LMS is a learning management system. In BINUS, you know BINUS Maya. In OU, you use Blackboard. But there are a lot of different kind of LMS. You can use Moodle, you can use Canvas, you can use Flipgrid if you want to. You can use Google Classroom if you want to. There are lots of options. But how do they optimize it? That's the biggest questions. Yeah, it's not only about putting grades, but there are also ways for them to get interactions through LMS. So this is how my role in the instructional technology during the pandemic. Okay. Okay, so what about instructional technology during the pandemic? Here, we have put more stress on the live and recorded video. Why is that important? Because in live videos, you can have interaction. That's pretty much basic. Everybody knows about that. But recorded video is very important for them, especially for those who doesn't have a strong bandwidth. You know what I mean by strong bandwidth, right? Like the fast, you can upload and download information like in video streaming. So they in some areas, in remote areas, especially in the Appalachian Mountain here, the connections of the internet connection is not as fast as everybody in any part, like in downtown, for example, like that. Yeah, so that really matters. So recording video is very, very important. So you have to put some storage in it. So you have to understand how to do it. And then optimizing learning management system. So we use Blackboard. So how do you optimize it? How do you using all of those features that they don't know that exist? For example, like Blackboard has a survey features called Qualtrics, which is very powerful, but only few people knows how to do it. So it's a very, very nice statistical software, statistics to get information, to get surveys, to create questions and everything. So that's what we call the optimizing learning management system. Encourage collaborative learning. So how do you do that? So when teachers are stuck to do something like face-to-face teaching in front of camera, where the students are there, like for example, 14 students, you don't know whether they exist or not, whether they're live or not, because the picture is static. Yeah, you don't know whether they're. So how do you involve them? How do you engage them so that they will follow your course? So there are a lot of ways of doing it, but we tend, as an instructional designer, we tend to encourage them to do collaborative learning. The easiest way to do is using Google Docs. So, like for example, there are some students who are too shy of showing their pictures, so their face during the Zoom meeting or team meeting, and then, but they're also not the case. Sometimes students just turn off their camera because the bandwidth is very slow if they turn it on. So they rather to just listen to what the instructor says. So what they do is, if you have like a Google Docs and you share it, you share the link through the chat box, and then they open it in their windows in Google, then you can see who they are, right? Who they are also interacting to each other. Yeah, for example, you can ask one questions, and then you divide them into 4 groups, and then each students, they have to contribute, and you can see that from the color of the people who are involved there. And then it works in most of the case, and then people like that because it's easy. Google is everywhere. Everybody has a Google account. You don't have to install other apps. No, you don't have to pay anyway. And then yeah, that works in some parts. And then in many cases where students are so board, for example, collaborative learning might work. And then experiential learning, this is pretty new. Then we encourage them. This is based on what the constructivism and then experiential learning, the COPE, yeah, the theory said about learning is acquired by doing it, by using hands-on experience. So this is what we do. So for example, we had a class that that you have to finish it using quests and missions. So for example, you have a 13 meeting, and then one week you have to finish one quest. Quest means activities. For example, you have to open, you have to create documents using Google Docs. Yeah, and then you have to do like this, for example, like that. Or you have to edit an image using Camtasia or whatever. You have to create video using iMovie, for example, like that. So they have to do that. It doesn't matter the result is, but they have to experience it. And at the end of the day, they have course. They accumulate points. For example, one quest is worth 20 points. Second quest and everything. Mission is bigger, usually like that. So at the end of the class, they have to acquire maximum 200 points. If you get 200 points, and you get an A. If you have 180, you get B, for example, like that. So what we have to do there is that we use a quite minimal experience on face-to-face using technology, but we encourage them to do it at home. Yeah, so that's what we do. So it's a quest and mission is pretty, yeah, in some cases it works, especially for the students who are living in remote areas. Like I have students who live in the woods, doesn't have any good connection. So what they did, they always ask me, can I just look at your recording, and then so I can just finish it after you done it, because it's much easier for me to download the recording and read it rather than I'm leading it. I'm following your classes online. That's pretty much about it. And then yeah, one-on-one versus group interaction. In this case, I encourage teachers to have an one-on-one interactions using appointment. Yeah, so you can like, for example, like apps like Doodle. Yeah, for example, you can put your available time as a teachers, and then you can ask students to just, you want to talk to me one-on-one without students knowing it, and then you just click the time and everything like that. So that's pretty much about it. And then it works. Yeah. So apps really helps to make appointments. So the teachers doesn't have to leave his house, and then the students also can stay home. So formative and summative assessment in this case is that I think Kiki already mentioned about that, about Kahoot and stuff, but it's more like this. This is related to what about the mental well-being, yeah, the psychological thing that happens when you are doing online. People get so stressed, students stressed, teachers stressed, parents stressed, and it is affected to the whole system. So what are you going to do with the formative summative stuff? Are you still stuck? Are you still insist to use that standard that been developed before the pandemic, or are you going to change it? Yeah, so that's the thing. So what we do is we try to make a range, a new range, and then you can use it using the apps there to make a new way of measuring. Okay. Okay, so that's what we did, and then move to another part. And then what happened during the pandemic? It was happened on online, so the class is so quiet, and then schools are so empty. So I went there because I got vaccinated, and I worked to fix some of the computers at the office. But when we start to open our class starting this fall, I think, yeah, this one is fall. Yeah, we start our class this fall in August, and then we start accepting those students who are being at home since 2020, spring break in March. So now the campus is alive again. So what happened then? So what happened with the class? Are they totally changed into face-to-face? The answer is no. Actually, we use hybrid. We changed into more of mix between online and face-to-face traditional. Why? Because it seems that some of the students, some of the teachers are already comfortable with the technology. That's interesting, right? I had a teacher who were teaching statistics. Yeah, so he's a professor in statistics. You know, you use SPSS and all of those things, R, yeah. And then he always said that I couldn't teach students statistics online because I couldn't show them what to do. I couldn't show them where the operational systems that, the operational thing that students learn statistics. But because of the situation, because of the pandemic, he was forced to do it, and now he liked it. And now his class is mixed between face-to-face and online. So that's interesting findings, you can say. So that's how I see it. So there's a good thing about having a pandemic. It forced teachers to learn technology, to embrace technology. They're not hating anymore. Yeah, so this is what I saw is a challenges and opportunity. Faculty and learners' preferences. So psychological issues. That's what happened when I told you about the functional well-being. Teachers are frustrated because they have to move to the area that they are not familiar with, especially using technology. They're not sure whether he or she can teach well. He's not sure what kind of outcome. He's not sure about the assessment and stuff. Yeah. So that's what we talk about. And then I think it's the same what happened in Australia. We give them a well-being support. If someone need help, you can contact the campus, and then they can have the online meeting for, if whatever you have any psychological problem. Even when I got sick, I had to see a doctor. We did it online. Yeah, so we still have support on that. And using apps for teaching and learning, this is really helpful if you can do that. Yeah, of course, if you are doing math, you can use many apps in the market. You can do that, and then some of the game you can use for that. And then remote learning, this is a must. Yeah, so now most of our teachers know how to do remote learning, but this is the thing. I'm not talking this on behalf of any companies. Okay, so I see that Binus using Zoom, OU is using MS Teams, so we're using Microsoft Teams. So it's an official, how do you call that? Official video conferencing tools that we use. Yeah. So as instructional technologists and as IT support, what we can help for teachers is to develop their account and their skills using MS Teams, because we're not using Zoom, so we cannot help them out. But the thing is, sometimes teachers are trying to find whatever they are comfortable with, especially if there's gray area they don't know, and someone he or she knows teach him how to use Zoom, and he feels comfortable, he start liking it, and suddenly he has to choose Team. Of course, he will reject it. So what happened is that some of the teachers are have different preferences, and that creates problems sometimes for the students, because students are used with Teams, and suddenly they have to use Zoom. Yeah, so that's kind of challenges that we have to measure, yeah, to overcome. And then encouraging collaborative learning, I told you before, yeah. So you have to do it collaboratively. The easiest way is using Google Docs. Yeah, that's the easiest way. You don't have to spend a dime. You could just open your Google account and you can do it. Online assessment. Now, the assessment is the questions like this. What about if you are so stressed, if you are so psychologically unprepared, and suddenly you have to do the exam? What is your teachers do? What should you do as a teacher? Then in OU, we have a policy that if you feel that you cannot do the exam due to any reasons, you don't have to say it, what your problem is, because this is privacy. Then you can cancel your grades, for example, like that. So if, for example, you did the end of the semester, there's an exam or something like that, and you think you fail, and then you can ask your teachers to null it, to cancel it. Then the teacher have some times to do that. Yeah, to just cancel the grade so that the student can take it again. It's not fail. So when you say that I will void this grade, then your grade will not gonna be appeared in your transcript. So you're fine. Yeah, you're not gonna be appeared there. So that's what we kind of support that we give to our student, that the official gave to our student. Yeah, so that's how we did. And then and redefining assessment standard. That's why what kind of standards are you going to use for this? Are you going to use same standards during the pandemic, with the same with the before the pandemic, or are you different? Since the delivery is different, so how do you change your standard? How much space are you giving to them for that changes? Yeah, and how do you communicate to them? For example, that now we are not going to use any formative and summative, but we are going to do mission and quest, for example, like that. Then how do you measure it? How do you evaluate? How do you communicate it to your students? So you have to know that students, you have to submit this. We don't have an exam, but we have to do this, and every kind of activities has its own values. Yeah, and then this is what we do. Yeah, for the final slides. So instructor tends to choose the minimalist teaching approach. What I mean by minimalist, it means that something that they understand well. So I think that goes to every professors and any of us probably. We don't like to move to the area where the territory is you don't know. Yeah, uncharted territory, you can call that, right? So you move to one apps to another. You don't like that. So if you like one apps, and you move to another app. Something that you want to move from PC into Apple, from Mac, for example, like that. It's a big change, and then you kind of reject it, something like that. But once you do that, yeah, you like it, you don't want to move to another one. So that's kind of a thing. So if you like challenge, yeah, during pandemic is probably one of the best era that you have. But mostly instructors playing safe, so they're using more approach that they understand better. And then yeah, they use synchronous and asynchronously through video live conversation and email. So this is interesting because they can have face-to-face interaction with their students, but they also connect it to email. So they send email to them. So like a formal and informal at the same time. Interesting. So the last one is the pandemic push instructors to use remote learning. Yeah. So what we did is prepare them with appropriate training and support. So what we do is we don't do formal training, but we did is always like, okay, for example, we know like me, I handle like with my team, we handle like 45 professors. Yeah. Most of the professors are pretty senior. Yeah, they only know some of the features, and then we always say that whatever you need up, just contact me. Yeah, so something like that. It really helps a lot. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it that I like to share to you. So it's based on my experience, but actually some of the findings there has already been examined by my colleague. His name is Kyle, and he did his dissertation on that. And then he found that some of the teachers has already becoming more proficient in using technology due to the pandemic, but also there are some of the professor who are still afraid, but at least they try. Yeah, so that's a good positive thing about having a pandemic here. It's not always bad thing. You always look at the good thing sometimes. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. This is really intriguing to talk about what is that instructional design, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we go on to the question and answer session. May I call some of you, Bapak Ibu? I am Mr. Justinus. Are you there? Mr. Justinus, do you want to say something about this instructional design? And you want to ask Mr. Wisnu? Pak Justinus? Right. Or other participants? Maybe you are having something to say, like, you know, what kind the challenges, and then oh, I want to apply this in my class, or you can share a lot of things with Mr. Wisnu about that. Ibu Rum? Hello, Ibu Rum.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I cannot turn on my camera.
It doesn't matter.
Halo Bu Ria, Assalamualaikum. Apa kabar Bu?
Alhamdulillah.
Long time no see, Alhamdulillah.
Ya, senang sekali lihat Pak Wisnu lagi ya.
Udah kelihatan tambah tua ya.
Apalagi saya ya. Oke, Pak Wisnu. Padahal baru beberapa waktu itu saya ngebatin, kok Pak Wisnu apa kabarnya ya sekarang kok nggak mau pulang-pulang nih. Okay. I think your topic is, I mean, for me it's very interesting because that's what we are facing nowadays, yeah. Especially with our students in Indonesia, because we have to use Zoom. And yeah, because of the reason of the bandwidth, etc., most of them do not want to turn on their camera. Okay, yeah. So that's, I think it's really a bit what is it? Troubling me, because usually if we have a face-to-face class meeting, then we can see their faces, their body language, etc. But now we cannot. Okay, so as if I'm talking to what? Something not live, yeah. So probably you have any suggestions, so how to make it, I mean how to lessen the trouble, yeah, especially when we teach language, yeah, because language should be lively, right? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bu Ria. It's nice to hear your voice again. So, yeah, it's always a problem, Bu, especially if you are using Zoom and you have to activate your camera and you have to see them speak, right? And then the thing about in US is much more than that, actually. It's all about privacy. You know, in Indonesia, probably you can say that, well, you have to turn on your camera, otherwise I'm gonna. But in US, you can say, this is my privacy, this is my property. You cannot do that. We have the bubble or something like that. Those American privacy is sometimes a problem. But anyway, besides that, sometimes the bandwidth is something that you cannot just fight. You know, when you live in a remote area where bandwidth is so limited, and so yeah. So you cannot do that. So what we can do is actually especially in language. My friend, my colleague from the linguistics department, actually, she uses the apps called voice thread. Yeah, so I can just write down it. So you can voice thread. Maybe I can write down in the chat box. Voice. Man, I'm old. I cannot see. Okay, I need to change my glasses.
No, you are still forever young, Mr. Wisnu. You're not old.
Hey, look at me. I'm losing hair.
But your soul is young.
So it's a voice thread. This program is very, you know, it's an old program actually, but this works sometimes. Yeah. So it's kind of a way of recording, and then after that you're playing it. So it's not only about recording and playing it, but sometimes it's also but also useful if you want to analyze it. Yeah, so that's one thing that you can do, but there are lots of activities that you can do if you cannot fight with the connections, for example. Then you can try to record it and then send it as an attachment in the email, or you can use you can record your Zoom, for example, right? You can do that, and then you can share the file. Or you can use your cell phone to record yourself, and then you can share the file. So that's kind of thing that can be done. You know, if you can do it synchronously, then you have to do it asynchronously. Yeah, so that's the problem sometimes that can be solved. Here, the way we solve the problems is maybe cannot be done in Indonesia, because, like, for example, my son is here. He just graduated from high school, but before he graduated from high school, the schools give them a free Chromebook. There's a free laptop. You borrow it, you just go home and play with it. And then in that Chromebook, is used for him during the pandemic, especially for having class. And then because the connection is pretty good, then there's no problem. But I have his friend had a big problem with the connections. So what happened is that the state government, the Ohio government state, give them a Wi-Fi box, something like this, like what you call that, you know, and then it's free, and then it's very fast, and then give it to them and then just play it. But that, of course, it's not very feasible to be used in Indonesia, because it's gonna be costly. It's costly for the government, but that's coming from the tax money here. Yeah, so taxpayer money. So yeah, that's how they solve the problem. So if you cannot solve the problem that way, then probably the best way to do is to record, to use a much more minimalist. I don't want to say mediocre, but we call it basic recording and then playing, which is much more easy for the technology. Okay, so we have to be very careful. We have to be very sensitive on that too. Yeah. I hope I can. I answer your
Ms. Ria, are you
questions.
satisfied with Mr. Wisnu answer?
Yeah, I'm considering his suggestions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bu. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Ria.
Luck Pak Wisnu.
Yeah, sama-sama, Bu.
Okay.
We can talk about it later. Yeah.
All right, we still have
What
8
else?
minutes left, but the last one, I think, from our manager, language center manager, Mr. Chris. Yeah. Mr. Chris.
Hi, Mr. Manager. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Hi. How are you, Bob?
Good. Thanks.
Thank you for your time back. I believe it's quite late, yeah, in US now.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's almost 12 anyway. Okay. What?
Okay. Responding to your sharing, I believe we have shared a lot about our program in Binus University, like our project, like digital language learning and so on. Okay, anticipating like the new era after the pandemic. So what can you suggest for the whole stakeholders? Let's say we have like the students, the parents. I believe when they come to the new environment, they have to adapt with all of these things, right? And from the perspective of instructional technology, so what to know at least when they have to use, when they have to live with all these kind of things in their life, from the lecturers, the students, and all stakeholders.
Wow, that's a big question. So the thing about what I know is that if you talk about stakeholders, it also includes the decision makers, right? So the administrations, and also the users, especially students, and also the parents. So what I'm thinking about is probably what we can do is that we have to make a system that is quite open for those stakeholders to be able to see and to look at what you guys been doing, what you're trying to do. For example, like here in US, for example, there is a platform LMS called Class Dojo. Maybe you know that. So it's for K-12. So for K1, 2, 3, 4. So what they do is they have LMS just like Binus Maya based on iPad. Why iPad? Because the kids can do that with their hands, with their finger. They don't have to use pen, right? So they can look over the activities. They can do the activities, and then they know what to do because the design there, the instruction is designed very, very effectively. So when they do the activities, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, in their iPads, this activity is recorded. And who can see it? Who can see those activities? The teachers, the administrators, and the parents too. So that means that they can see all of these activities been doing, so they know how the process of teaching and learning been progressing. So I think that's a pretty much of interesting point that you can use that, especially if you want to know about the progress of our students in learning language, for example. Like, for example, if they do activities like speaking, listening, reading, for example, like that, how many activities they've been doing, and then what kind of activities they've been doing and stuff like that. So that's what I think. And then who can see that? You can see it. The administrators can see it. And then whoever had chance or had the access for that can see it. Yeah, it doesn't have to be parents if you don't want to, but if the administrators say that the parents should be able to see it, then it can be done like that. But that's what makes it more more legit, more quality. You can guarantee the quality of your teaching learning process through that part, in my opinion. Okay. Anything else? Hopefully I can answer your questions.
Mr. Chris?
Yeah, we can talk about that later, and we can do a lot of different stuffs.
We keep discussing on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vishnu. Time is
All right.
up for
Bye. Fine.
So, dear all participants, please give the appreciation for Mr. Vishnu by clicking the reaction button. Yay!
Yay! Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Vishnu. All right. So now we are going to the last part for the token appreciation. Will be taken over by Miss Norma. Time is yours, Miss.
Masih termute ya, Bu?
Can you unmute, Miss Norma?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Desi, and thank you to all of our speakers today for the insightful and informative delivery. And today we are going to have a little bit of token appreciations. So that way I'm inviting Mr. Cristiano Doctriano And our first speaker today, Mr. Kiki. Hi. Okay.
Kiki. Yeah. Thank you for Mr. Kiki for your time and your sharing in this event. On behalf of our language center, Binus University, we'd like to present this certificate of appreciation, and we hope it will open other opportunities, to collaborate in the future. Thank you, Mr. Kiki, for your time.
All right. Thank you. And now we are inviting Dr. Jovchin, but I think Dr. Jovchin is having another appointment, right? Is she still here? Okay. Yeah, so we can go to Mr. Vishnu then. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Sander Jovchin for your time as well and for your insightful sharing. We hope this session will proceed on other collaboration, with our faculty members, especially talking about your topic, Okay, thank you.
And yeah, last but not least, Mr. Vishnu.
Sorry, Miss Norma. Dr.
Yes,
Jovchin
Vishnu.
still here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, I thought she's here. Okay.
Okay. Yes, and thank you, Pak Vishnu, for your time as well.
Sure, thanks. Anytime.
All right, that's it. So now we are going to have a little bit of photo session. So everyone, if you don't mind, please open your camera, and then we are going to have photo sessions together. Yeah, Miss Rina, can you please help us? Okay, I'll take the pictures then. Okay, yeah. I think I can do the screenshot. Okay. Yeah, so everyone, please give your best smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and second row. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, everyone. Yeah. So I guess that's it for today. We are from Language Center. Okay, are looking forward to have you all in our next event. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day and stay safe and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Stay safe,
Bye
stay
bye.
healthy.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
See you
Thank you,
again.
Bapak Ibu. Thank you.
Bye bye, Bu.